All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fight. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Sterling versus Zalal, taking a look at the upcoming UFC Fight Night, Della Maddalena versus Prates. To do all of that with me, as always, you know him as the co-host. I call him the GOAT host, Mr. Chase Parton. How are you, brother?
I am very, very good. Obviously, it is Monday, guys. It is 10 p.m. We had fights on Saturday. And of course, I'm very excited to talk about them. I mean, it was a decent weekend. I know there's some mixed reviews about what we experienced on Saturday, and I would definitely like to chop it up. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes, some back and forth about a couple of these fights. It is an Apex card. I think a lot of people have like a little bit of restlessness around the Apex cards in general, so maybe the atmosphere might have been a little bit off for some people regarding some of the stuff that happened on this card. I thought that this was good overall. We'll get into it, of course, and yeah, talk about everything that we've got going on with this and the upcoming cards. So indeed. Other than that, though, what else happened in this week as far as combat sports goes for you, Chase? Anything?
I did watch one, and it was actually a very good one card. I can't remember, all the intricacies, of course, but there was a 19-year-old, I believe. She was either 19, 20, or 23, something like that. And she hit the flying knee buzzer beater knockout. And that was pretty nuts to see early on in the card. I mean, obviously, everything after that didn't live up, but there was still some bangers out there. So shout out to her, whoever the Thai girl is, who's just obviously going to be the GOAT, it looks like. So, yeah.
True, absolutely. Well, as you know, I have been doing a lot of Muay Thai watching recently. So I had two events that I watched. One was Patong Fight Night. This was a very interesting promotion, pretty good production value overall. I enjoyed it. There was a fighter out of Denmark named Frederick Pedersen, who had a very good performance and a great fight. He ended up winning a belt off of that. So shout out to him. And of course, shout out to Bloomis in Denmark. You have a champion now over there. And, I watch RWS on Sunday nights, and there are two fighters that I have to shout out specifically. One is a dude named Kanesack. He is awesome. He got a very quick body shot finish in his fight. And the other one is my dude, Tim Schloppbach. This dude, Tim Schloppbach, is the man, bro. He is from Switzerland, so he's a rival, I guess, of Robert Valentine out there. And this dude comes in and puts on these crazy banger performances every time that I've seen him. He has been knocking heads around, so that was very, very awesome to see him do that again. So those two were very cool. The featured fight was great as well. It was Daniel Matthews versus oh gosh, I forget the first name, but DeMio is his it was the last name. So Matthews versus DeMio was the featured fight. They do it interesting in RWS. They have the championship fight. That was an okay fight. The Petchmetong, I forget the name of the champion fight, but they have the champion fight, and then they have one more or two more fights afterwards that are like, these are like the real deal. You got to be watching these kind of fights to like really set it off as the end. Like this is, I call them the banger fights. You got the championship fight, and then you have the banger fights. The banger fight was Daniel Matthews versus this dude DeMio, and it was definitely that. It was certainly a great fight. So great RWS card last weekend.
No, I'm very happy to hear that you are enjoying some Muay Thai lately. I know that you were the one that actually got me into one championship. You always said it was a very fun promotion. It was one of the more exciting ones. I went in there with an open mind and learned that Muay Thai is one of my favorite forms of striking. Other than mixed martial arts striking, that is. Muay Thai is superior striking, and I love it. And I'm glad to see that you're witnessing all these other regional promotions. Like, listen, the Deep Watch Along Part 2 is gonna go crazy. I tell you guys.
I cannot wait. We've been talking about doing Deep again since I've said it several times on the watch alongs that I think Deep might be my absolute favorite watch along that we have ever done. So yes, Deep is definitely happening at some point again once we figure out all of the subscription and all of those types of issues with getting the getting the show. But yeah, no, I think that a lot of the frustration with mixed martial arts comes from the UFC and perceived quality levels. But I would say, as a caveat to that, or at least a counterpoint to it, when it comes to this card specifically, I did not feel that this one was part of my gripes with all of that. There were a couple of little instances we'll talk about with some commission based stuff, but overall, this card was not one that I was like, man, another week of terrible UFC, blah blah blah, being a curmudgeon and stuff.
I kind of liked what we had here. I thought this was a pretty decent card. Compared to some other ones, I'm not going to name them off the top of my head because I can't really remember, the entirety of my enjoyment. But this one right here, God, I just love the Apex. I really think that's what it comes down to. Most of the time that I come around to the Apex, there be some funky stuff just like anywhere else, and other times you're just like, they're just regional weirdos. But no, this is good stuff right here. This is a really classic Apex card, I would like to say.
I thought so too. And also, I am in the same boat as you are. I know a lot of people have the feelings, like I said, about the Apex. And it's like, okay, you want crowds, all the things that you talk about, with making fights more memorable and the pop being part of it and all of that. I'm just here to watch people kick and punch each other. And this delivers to me. So I'm okay with this, especially when you have some decent quality fights like what we at least got on the main card of this. Undercard we'll talk about maybe a little bit less less impactful. But overall, I was pretty happy with it. So that being said, I mean, unless there's anything else you wanted to discuss, Chase, I guess we can get into it. Was there anything else?
No, I think I'm ready to get into this one. It's going to be a good one.
All right. Well, then before we do, I will say yamashow.com for all of your Yama and last week's fights merchandise. Go ahead and get yourself some last week's fights apparel of sorts.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's start this thing off. This, of course, was UFC Fight Night, Sterling versus Zalal. This was at the Meta Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Coming into this card, Chase, on paper, what we thinking?
A lot of people said on paper for an Apex card, this was like 8, 9 out of 10. I actually wasn't one of these people. I did not think that this was one of the better Apex cards that I've seen. I mean, guys, Carlos Prates was in the Apex. Let's be real here. So it, I don't know. I would like to believe that that this was maybe a 7, but I would say it over delivered. I would say for the people who thought this was 8 or 9 out of 10 on paper, I mean, they probably thought this under delivered. Uh, Go
Well,
ahead.
I was going to just say that, like, I thought that just the main event was probably worthy of being on, like at like the undercard of a numbered event. You know what I mean? Like that was where I thought about that. The rest of the card, hit and miss in parts as far as like on paper goes. So I wouldn't say that this was like, a standout, like, wow, this is going to be one of the craziest Apex cards we've ever seen kind of thing. But the main event I thought was pretty solid. We'll talk about it when we get to it, of course. Other than that, I mean, I think that again, I feel like I agree. It over delivered a little bit. I thought that there were some really good parts once you got past some of the slower stuff, which we're unfortunately going to have to front load because this got off to a slower start. I would say.
I actually would like to just say, and I want you to keep me honest, I'm serious. The day that the card comes that I'm not just enjoying life, just watching cards, just having a good time with the UFC. The day that it comes, just jot that down and make sure not to let me forget. Like, yo, this card ruined your life, right? When I say, oh, it's not that bad, you'd be like, yo, you were all rainbows and butterflies until that card came, right? So
True. Yeah, and and that's the thing I think that we all do have to every once in a while step back and remember is that like, we're getting to watch fights on a
thank
regular
you.
basis. Like, life could be a ton worse. The worst card is still going to be fights. Two people fighting is always going to be fun to me.
Exactly. I love it. And two women.
And well, let's start it off with these two women then, of course. So starting this thing off, we had Talita Allen-Carr and she fought Julia Pilastri. What'd you think?
You know, Talita Allen-Carr, she did win the fight. She did do things that were good. She did obviously have the better, skill set in the encounters that led her to win by judge's decision. But she unfortunately took a step back. I feel like in the last fight, against somebody like, Vanessa Demopoulos, as I believe is who it was, yeah, she can look like a cardio machine if she's got somebody who's not very good and, not giving her that much. Talita Allen-Carr is just forever gonna not be anybody who can make 3 rounds, I guess, because she gassed out. She didn't gas out. She was obviously still able to produce something, but she was very tired, huffing and puffing, like at the beginning of the second round. She had a very good first round, in my opinion, and I was like, oh yeah, she's looking good. She got that last minute of control time, and I was like, this is exactly what we're looking for. She's gonna get this next round and be looking good. And then she came out, holding her breath, not holding her breath, but huffing, and I was like, shit, well, Well, now that all that goes out the window because that was my game plan. My game plan was that she had developed cardio, and that was the only thing that's been holding her back. So the fact that it didn't necessarily hold her back is a good sign, but I still think, there was a regression here. And I feel like that's unfortunate because, again, she won the fight. She beat somebody who, people would have told you she was going to get finished by or something. But she did a very good job. She was confident with her hands. She didn't actually have to use her grappling as much as you would think she did, but she won the fight. It wasn't my favorite one, but I'm as happy to be right about it, if that makes sense?
Well, so this is something I probably should have said during the intro to the card, but I'll say it here because it's going to be a recurring theme. There were a couple of fights on here that either made me question my scoring of rounds or I thought were petty thefts. And it starts right here, and I'll explain. I will explain myself. So this fight was not great. I mean, I think that we talk about women's banger openers, which, you've been right about so many times in the past, Chase. This certainly did not live up to that standard. In fact, shout out to Hydra. When we were on the watch long, he was saying, not my women's opener. And I thought that was that tracks. That it definitely was not of the caliber of what we would expect for a women's opener. So it was a slower fight at times, picked up a little bit at parts. So it was a slow first round. I thought that Pilastri took the round based on minimal single strike ranged attacks because people will tell me that Alan Carr won the first round, but she only had a trip takedown and did nothing with it except get up kicked herself. So, like, again, if we're judging off of like the specific instances, and optics is so much of the sport, we definitely know how that goes. So I acknowledge that as well. That, like, and I rewatch all of these fights too. So, like, I'm always hyper focused on the rewatches. That I can understand some of the assessments like in the moment on some of these fights, but then going back and like really breaking it down with the fine tooth comb, I was like, I thought that Pilastri ended up taking that first round, and then you get into the later parts here. I said that Pilastri, maybe you could have it 1-1 going into the second or 2-0. With these judges and all that kind of stuff. And then Pilastri definitely had no urgency in the third round and ended up losing that round definitively. But it's like, that being said, I think that there are just a couple of instances, and there are definitely more on this card that we'll talk about, when I was like, I didn't necessarily agree with everything that was being assessed in the moment, but I understood it. And that's a lot, I think, of what I'm coming to understand in my like overall assessment of fights is like, in the moment is one thing, watching back is another thing, and how people like remember / view the fights, especially if they are not rewatching them with the scrutiny that I do. I have to factor all of those things in my assessments, I guess.
100%. Shout out John Dong, by the way. We didn't get to give a shout out to the chat because where is everybody? Nobody's here anyway. But the
Yeah,
point is, there was actually one thing I wanted to know. They wore dark blue and purple for this fight. Did you catch on to this?
I did.
If you are a casual viewer, you have two Brazilian women. Now, granted, they don't look alike, but they are both of the same region. They are both same-ish skin tone. Who's to say what their name is when you don't know what you're watching? But then you see two women, and one's in navy blue and one's in purple. I mean, who's to say here? I don't know. I thought it was a very poor choice to let them come out like that. Obviously somebody's got to step in, right? Like, you can't both be wearing the dark colored shit, right? Like, am I wrong about this?
I mean, I guess it's their choice. They do have the blue and the red for the hand wraps in the corners. So, I mean, that's always going to be the designation as to,
But
who is who.
for in the arena though, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's the
Imagine you're in the
Apex.
nosebleeds. Well, I
No,
guess, but
yeah, I
I
said the
mean,
nosebleeds of the Apex. Yeah, no, I mean, I understand. Yeah, there is a differentiation that needs to happen here. I guess that they look different enough that you should probably be able to track it. Um, but that would, I can see there being a little bit of an issue there. Yeah, you want to have a little bit more differentiation than it's colors that are very similar.
and the last thing I want to know is this was really bad. I was rooting. Obviously, I picked Alan Carr to win. She did not look as impressive as she has, but she did win the fight nonetheless. But the glazing from commentary started immediately on this card. You clearly could hear that DC just had a list of the people they told him to talk about. Like, it was really bad. They're talking about Talita Allen Carr. He's like, fucking, as a coach, I would love to have somebody like that. She listens to everything. And you heard that? You see that
Oh
right
yeah.
there? Coach told her to kick. She kicked. It's like,
Yep.
oh my
Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
like
Definitely that. Yeah. I mean, that, like, is it talking points handed down or is it just DC and him picking who he likes because that's just what he does? Yeah. It was definitely noticeable in different fights for sure. And this was certainly one of them. But I mean, I think it was understandable based on Palastri's performance. And again, optics playing a huge part in this fight. Palastri was too committed to single strikes. If you are the striker, I mean, we saw her put on the striking performance against, Kavokevich, where she was, playing with her food a little bit. And we said in that fight, like, hey, if you just strung together combos and actually like went for it, you could have won that fight earlier. This is what happens when you have an opponent who is not letting you have that kind of fight and you're still fighting the same way. String together a fucking combination. Like, Jesus Christ, she's putting together single shots the entire fight.
it's funny too because in my opinion, Julia Palastri at any point could have finished this fight past round 2.
Just
You know,
opened up. Yeah.
and that's the crazy part. It's like, I'm not trying to say it as somebody who, in her last fight, I said this, like, yo, you could have finished Carolina in the first round. She wanted to get on there and talk about how tough she is. I get it. You kicked her in the body 3 different times in the first round and almost finished her, and you didn't like press on it. That's the issue. And then you have Alan Carr, who's clearly winded. And you were kicking the body. I will give her credit. She was working the body that was making me think like at any point this could get interesting. But Palastri just she don't do anything really. She just plods forward. This is a problem, unfortunately, and Brazil. I hate to just loop. It's mostly the Brazilian women that I've seen that do this. They have this plodding forward style. Yet when they have certain opponents, they just don't open up at all. They just walk them down. They cut the cage off, or they just do a lot of feinting and they don't do anything. Like I don't know. Like it's really kind of just unfortunate.
No, I mean, it tracks, man. What you just described is Bruna Brazil to a T. So, I mean, that kind of is tracking very well when it comes to what you're describing. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was a lot of that. Second round was similar to the first with a little more ground time for Alan Carr. I still gave Palastri the second off of the striking again, just off of damage, even though Alan Carr turned up a little bit with her own striking. But then again, just no urgency out of Palastri late in this fight. So the third round was definitely a loss for her. So if you had it 1-1 based on either of those first 2 rounds, and then that third round rather is going to Alan Carr, I understand why this went the way that it went. I didn't necessarily agree with it. I gave those first 2 rounds to Palastri and then the third to Alan Carr. So this to me was a little bit of a petty theft, but it's like when it's this type of a fight, can I really be that upset about it? No, again, optics, I understand completely. There was one thing I did want to mention though that was kind of funny. Alan Carr in the second round gets a takedown. She wipes her nose on Palastri's back and then elbows her in the back of the head thereafter. Did you see this, Chase?
I did not see this at all, but that's
This
hilarious.
so she had gotten struck in the face at some point and her nose was leaking a little bit. So yeah, she literally like wipes her nose like that a little bit, wipes it off on her back, and then bam with the elbow. It's just like, geez. No call on that one. Of course, many no calls from the referees tonight, as always. But that was just a little funny moment there. But either way, again, I'm not super mad about this one. I have to choose. I have to pick and choose where I crash out, and that's also going to be something that'll come back around. But like, this is one that certainly was not warranting of a crash out. This was not a robbery situation. I just thought it wasn't the correct call personally.
The thing that I want to say before we move on about Alan
Yes.
Carr is that she's going to be moving up in the rankings, technically, not in the rankings per se, but divisionally, she's on the upward trajectory. While I potentially believe that the skills looked like they're on the not she's regressing, but like she didn't show me what I needed to see in this fight. The last one I was like, you heard me. I was ready to go. She showed it to me. I knew she was going to beat Palastri, and she did, but it just wasn't the performance that I was expecting. And this is a hard opponent, Palastri. She's a good striker, but she chose to stand with her. After the first round, you saw how easy she got her down and held her down for 2 minutes. I mean, I know she didn't do much, but it's like utilize your skill set until they show you that they are better than that kind of deal. You got to spam those takedowns because she's like a credentialed grappler, from what I understand. BJJ nerd at best, and she's actually succeeding. But I'm just not thinking that the next level might be where we see the ceiling so far. I mean, Stephanie Luciano took her to a draw, and we know she was looking like a hot prospect. She had one ish performance. We'll see if she's going to make a big comeback. But Alan Carr, I'm really hoping that you got, I don't know, the cardio I guess is just never going to be there. I don't know what to say.
Well, I mean, it speaks to a point that you had made earlier, and one thing that I will mention, talking about DC's glazing, something that stuck out to me. DC at one point said, "Alan Carr looks to be in tremendous shape,"
Yes.
and I'm not trying to be rude to this lady here, but she did not look to be in tremendous shape. Her physique is she looked a little rotund, I would say. Just she's got a little bit of a belly. Again, if she was a person on the street, I would never be commenting on this. She's a professional fighter, so I think it's warranted here. The cardio also comes with that. So I mean, thinking about all of these elements, her not looking great in this fight, not looking stars and bars better than her competition, also looking a little bit pudgy, having an okay performance, and now she is advancing. I think it all goes to what you were just talking about.
I think it's really funny because, and we'll talk about it later. Maybe we won't make the point, but they talked about Alan Carr being in tremendous shape. Obviously, she's winded, she's fucking, whatever. They talked about her being in tremendous shape. They also talked about Ryan Spann as if he was fucking Rory Nelson or something. That's the craziest thing ever. Obviously, yes, he's 264, but that doesn't look like a fucking blob. Like, are we serious, guys? We'll talk about it later.
Well,
But
and in both of those instances, maybe they meant in comparison to their opponent because Pilastri is thinner and also Buchecha looks like he had trimmed down a little bit. But either way, whatever. Yeah, who knows? Again, it could just be DC just saying shit, which is certainly he is want to do that.
there was one point, I think it's the next fight, where he's not even sure that this is the dude's name. Like he
Oh
said,
my, yeah, he had some certainly like some questionable commentary on this card, as you come to expect. So we can talk about some of that. But either way,
well,
yeah, go ahead.
I had one more thing just because we're on the DC rant. He said he had a tweet, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking at the first three bouts, and I'm like, okay, maybe I was a little positive on my experience here. But DC tweeted, you know, I normally love fights or whatever, but for 14 fights and such decisions, it was a long night. Like I don't like doing that. And I'm like, yo, can we get somebody on the commentary crew who knows fucking what they're talking about and who wants to be there?
That I did not see that tweet. That is actually kind of atrocious. I mean, literally, dude, you look, DC is of course a legend of the sport as far as competition goes, but to conduct yourself the way that he does on commentary, which I think is fun and funny, but I can understand completely why people don't like it. To conduct yourself in that way and then also complain about the job when you have one of the most cake jobs on planet Earth. Maybe you hold back. Maybe you pump the brakes a little bit there, buddy, because there are other great fighters who probably talk a little bit better than you and probably will actually do the research to know how to say, Tumen Dembarel, Naim Jardal,
That's what it was. Oh my, that's his first name. Wait a minute. Yeah, you're telling
as
me
if he had never heard it before.
I
He
just can't
called one of
believe it.
his fights.
Dude, and that's the dude. There was I think it might have been Victor Valenzuela or whatever. He's like, I've never seen this dude before. And it's like, dude, you're on the fucking contender series. No, no, no. Oh my God. He said he lost to fucking Mando Nalo. And I'm like, that's not who he fought at all. That's not even who he fought. Can somebody correct him, please?
Yeah, forget LeHayon Douglas. I mean, there's so much that you can say with DC, but and again, I would let all of that go. But then to hear that he's also bitch moaning and complaining about the greatest job on the planet. Hey, DC, shut up.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like, okay, when it comes to, not to throw strays at Stephen A. Smith, but when people talk about, how does he watch all the sports? How can he have a commentary on things that he's not even able to watch? The schedules don't line up. He's always doing something when the games are, DC, the bare minimum, or just enjoy the fucking fights, bro. Like, what are you at the commentary booth if you
Bro,
can't even fucking watch the fights that you're sitting in front of? Like, what?
so true. And also the fact that like him and Dom Cruz have whatever that little back and forth that they have as far as the rivalry or the feelings about each other. But you have use Dom Cruz as your crutch. I mean, the guy, like, you can say whatever you want. I have plenty to say about Dom Cruz, that. But like one thing you cannot say is that Dom Cruz is not informed. I mean, the dude really, he knows the sport and he knows the fighters. Shut up and let him do his job, and you can say your dad jokes.
That's the absolute craziest part too, is because when you think of Dom, I was thinking, like, again, with speaking of the next fight, we'll talk about it. But Victor Valenzuela, he's like that. Yeah, he fought Mando Nala, and I'm like, somebody correct him. Normally, Dom Cruz is anybody is like quick to do something. Like nobody had said anything to DC. They just let him fucking ramble. They just let him completely
Yeah.
go on about stuff. You know?
Usually that would be the where like the central guy, like the Gooden in this case, would be the one to to have it in the ear and be like, okay, let me get the actual. Oh no, it was actually this person. But yeah, no, just letting DC run wild, and you know how that goes.
Yeah, it actually. We'll talk about it. It was Michael Oliveira. Everybody,
Ah,
thankfully, so we know. But either way,
okay. Well, thank you for that. All right. Well, anything else on Alan Carr and Pilastri before we move on?
no, and nothing more on DC. But I do want to give a big shout out to the fucking chat. Obviously,
Absolutely.
bleeding edge, John Dong, Jeremy, and Tyler. You guys, 3 kisses.
There you go. Oh,
And
and
Hydra, and right on
Hydra
time.
showing up right on time.
3 kisses for
Exactly.
Hydra, a three for just for Hydra.
Look at everybody getting kisses right now. Isn't that lovely? All
Okay.
right, moving on to the next one. Max Griffin fought Victor Valenzuela, as you referenced there. Um, yeah, I mean, this was certainly a fight. This was not one of the greatest, I would say. I definitely did not think Valenzuela, because of this performance, looked like he should have jumped the line after a loss on the Contender Series. But really, I think that, so I always talk about my like feelings on veteran fighters fighting debuting fighters. And on this card, I flipped them, unfortunately. It should have been Davey Grant, who I went with, because, he actually has some decent striking cardio left in him. Max Griffin really not living up to, the veteran status in this fight. So this kind of ended up being one of those situations where neither guy looked great to me.
It's kind of funny when we talk about some of these people who get hard debuts, right? Amosov with Neil Magny, that's a hard debut. Last week with John Castaneda, and Volodin, that's a decently hard debut. Anybody that you could think that's a hard debut. I'm gonna be real, guys. Max Griffin ain't no hard debut. I mean, this is somebody that if you are I don't know how to say it, but like you should be able to come in here with confidence and win the striking battle because one, he plays off the back foot a lot. So you're going to win the optics of just walking him down most of the time. And that's basically how Victor Valenzuela won this fight. I mean, nothing happened in this fight, unfortunately. There wasn't any big moments that really made you think, oh, like it wasn't anything going on. I mean, 53 strikes for one dude, 43 for the other. You can't really say much other than one dude did a little more walk than the other. I probably, it just sucks that you're right. He did get brutally knocked out, like knocked down a couple times, knocked out, by, a powerhouse coming out of Brazil. But the fact that he was able to just get back in here, probably because listen, Dana White loves people who will just take an ass whooping and just be ready to come back for a paycheck to do it again. He loves it. And this dude, I'm telling you guys, you got to go rewatch that 15 seconds or whatever the fuck it was. No, it was like 2 minutes, but like it might have even been 2 rounds. But this dude knows how to take a beating, and he at least didn't have to do that this time. He got, positivity back in the energy. Maybe he'll come in with a little more confidence next fight that like, I'm here, I can compete with a striker in the UFC. This is a veteran striker. I don't know what the case may be, but this performance right here, the only thing it lends to talk about is progression going forward because it's nothing really to talk about.
Well, yeah, and just back to the original point of Griffin, being the level of competition as your debut, you gotta put it in the framework of the fact that this guy lost on the Contender Series. This is not a guy that won on the Contender Series making his debut. This is a dude that did not win on the Contender Series making his debut. So Max Griffin really should be able to beat a guy of that caliber, theoretically at least. You know what I mean? So I'm really putting a lot of the emphasis of this fight in general on Griffin. I mean, you have been in the organization. This dude is now 20-13. So, 20-12 coming into this fight. Like you have seen as much as you are going to see in this organization and in this sport. You got to be able to beat this level of a debuting fighter. I mean, granted, this dude is not like, a crazy low record. He, had 13 wins on his record before this as well, but 4 losses there too. So this is a beatable fighter to an extent. Max Griffin should have been able to come out here and make this a grittier fight. It was a close fight. I definitely, so there. All right. I thought we lost you for a second.
We did just lose me, but continue on.
All right, we're still here. I thought that this was a close fight at times. I mean, close round, definitely round 1 and 2 were close. I thought that finally in the third round they started to turn up a little bit more, and even that was still close. So this was like a kind of a back and forth with a lot of like small moments for either guy. but not any like you said, there's no major moments that really like swung it to one direction in a meaningful way. So yeah, I mean, there was a couple of things, I can talk about some of the X's and O's of it, but it doesn't matter in the big picture all that much for this fight. I thought that, really, I have a note here saying that Max was not able to capitalize on any sequences in a meaningful way. That to an extent could also kind of go for Victor. So, like, how do you weigh it? I mean, I guess the judges got it right in the end, perhaps.
I think what's also it sucks that it's true. It doesn't suck because I really enjoy the aspect that we are very inclusive to a lot of different regions. All the regions in theory. Valenzuela being from Chile only makes you believe that him getting an opportunity like this is because they want some more representation from that region itself. We only have a few Chileans, and Valenzuela, with a W on his record, I mean, he adds to a list of people in the organization that are representing a region that's not very represented. And most of the people from Chile right now, I would say, are coming up. No, well, Bahamundes is not, but
That's what I
yeah.
was going to say. Do you think Ignacio Bahamundes was proud of this performance?
Um, no, no, probably not. Bahamundes is a dog, brother. This is and I don't blame him. I think again, you have a wily veteran who's able to play off the back foot. Now, it's kind of when you think about it, with the Davy Grant performance, it's the same kind of thing. He's on the back foot. He's just playing off of the skill sets. You come to me and I'll just give you whatever you got. But Max Griffin isn't as lethal of a striker to do that. He often, when he gets hit, he often has like this face where he's like, "Argh," like and then he goes across the cage and shit. Sometimes he even like runs away. Like it's not, just because it's not because he's bad or anything. It's just that's the type of fight, that's just what happens. That's the stuff that he's built up in his career. He's never fixed that ability to not show damage like that, to make the judges think like, oh man, he's hurting him if this dude's over here about to fucking cry, it looks like,
Well,
but go ahead.
no, I was just going to say also that both of these guys are big. This is a welterweight fight, and both of these guys are big welterweights, but like not in like a scary way. It's more in like a cardio goes out the window kind of way. You know what I mean? Like it really felt like this got to the sloppy territory kind of early in this fight when it shouldn't have been that. Like that's again something, and Max Griffin is on the later stage of his career. He's been around for a very long time, so I can understand that maybe that plays a bit of a factor for him. But like both of these dudes ended up in like kind of that like sort of sloppy territory where it wasn't like the technicality almost goes out the window to an extent. And I wouldn't say like 100%. I mean, they're not just in there flailing around, but like at times it felt a little bit like that. And I really thought that if either of them had just tightened up the fundamentals a little bit, that one of them could have had the moment, but neither of them did. I mean, like the one thing I would say that I'll give Valenzuela a little bit of credit here early in the fight, he did have a very nice whizzer during one of the takedown attempts by Griffin. Like he ended up having the whizzer to keep himself on the feet. I was like, that technically good move right there. But that's about where it ends. There was also one spinning kick for Venezuela that looked pretty good that ended up getting turned into a takedown, but he ended up popping back to his feet. So it ends up sort of being like a half and half on that. This is what we're talking about. It's like back and forths with somewhat of like a little bit of sloppiness to it. So what does it end up equaling out to? A fight that happened.
Yeah, I'm just glad the judges were able to call this one because listen, it was a win for Victor. No debating that in my opinion. I don't think anybody was going to scream robbery on this one, but it's definitely not the performance that you wanted for your debut. If you're going to be somebody that's going to be, someone to look out for, you need a big performance. You got to set the league on notice. Like, I am here in this division, but now people are going to still not even know how to say your last name, dude. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to come into your next fight and people aren't going to know who you are. You might come in as a slight favorite, but people are going to put money on you just because you come in as a favorite, but you have to prove that you are worth that number at this point. And I don't know, dude. I'm gonna have to see a lot more because we still don't even know, like, what is his game? Like, he's a striker, yes, but like beyond that, like, what does the skill set hold? What is he able to do? Where are the tools? He said he had a good whizzer. All right. What does that mean? He has good takedown defense? I mean, he gets one good whizzer, and then Max Griffin. I mean, he shot 9 takedowns. Okay, fair. I'll give him that. But it's Max Griffin at the end of the day. That's a striker who winces every time he gets hit. He probably doesn't even want to, whatever the point may be. Valenzuela is going to have to This would have been, this was the performance too. Like, this is the performance, and I think the UFC really wanted that. Of course, this was the performance that he could just open up on. This is Max Griffin. He gets beat by a lot of people who are just very basic strikers. When it comes to just boxing, Chris Curtis, whatever you want to say. He even did he be in that anyway? Valenzuela could have made a bigger impression, and I think that's what's key. He did not, so I think it's mentally he's gonna have to lock in, dude.
Yeah, you make a great point with that. He did not make an impression, and for your debut, that's exactly what you want to have as an impression. You want to give people a reason to remember your name, to want to tune into you again, to want for the organization to want to rebook you. I don't think that we got much of that out of this fight. Max Griffin's been around long enough. I don't know what his contract is like, but I'm sure that he'll get, another one of these kinds of fights. But I would think that also there's a little bit of concern on that side too. I mean, he's coming off of a couple of losses, I think, at this point now. And the idea that he's just going to be able to be the guy that is, gets beat a couple of times, more and just continues that, and that's just who he is. Like, that doesn't end up sticking around for very long either. So Valenzuela, if he is going to be on the uptick, needs to be making a better impression, because welterweight is one of the most competitive divisions that we have right now. You think about Victor Valenzuela against anybody in the top 10. I don't think that anybody thinks that you're fitting in that ranking. So
Oh my God, Hydra is making such good points here because I said nobody's gonna even know how to say his name, right? It's a two-parter here for Hydra. Yes, this ain't no Sal killed debut. Yes, correct. That's exactly what I'm talking about. But Victor Valenzuela had the opportunity to make his name a staple. Valenzuela. There's a reason everyone knows how to say Quillen Salkilled despite the vowel slop. You are absolutely correct. It is
true.
one of the more wonkier names that doesn't have 36 letters in it, like it's weird. But hats off to Valenzuela, you got the W. Don't think just don't be content with this because we've seen just because you win a decision once doesn't mean that you're going to walk away with every single decision. They're going to throw you a bone here and then one time or two they're going to fuck you over.
The judges giveth and the judges taketh away.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, no, I agree entirely. So we'll see what happens with Valenzuela. We'll see what happens with Griffin. Again, I think we can move on from this fight. We've talked about it long enough.
True.
All right, well, let's do just that then. Let's talk about a much better performance here. This is Francis Marshall versus Lucas Brennan. Now, coming into this fight, we did acknowledge that Lucas Brennan is a dude off of Bellator, just kind of randomly moseying his way into the UFC. Not really with any kind of fanfare, not really with anybody having much to say about him, save for Half Dead Frank in the Discord, who for some reason was high on him. But other than that, really not a huge name. I guess his dad was also a fighter, but not one that I was familiar with. So either way, Lucas Brennan coming in just sort of as a guy. That being said, Francis Marshall put on the performance that I always hoped he could put on, but you do have to caveat it with it, being against just a guy. So, I mean, how you weigh that is up to you. That being said, beautiful performance from Francis Marshall in this fight, because he did the one thing that he needed to do. And I don't know if he knew this about Brennan coming into this fight, but I would suspect that he did based on how he fought. Marshall negated Brennan's wrestling. And when he did that, that was really the end of the story for him, because he out wrestled him and Brennan did not have a plan B when he got outdone at his own game.
What I want to say, and this is, I don't want this to sound like a shot. I like Francis Marshall. He is, if you are a true fan of mixed martial arts and a fan of good wrestling, this is a guy that you should like. But I think to branch outside of the diehards who know the sport, Francis Marshall, again, it comes down to the name. It comes down to the name and the look. He's a little too bland. He's a little too basic. And with a performance like this, he just falls into, it's not forgettable, but it's a performance that I want to see him finish a guy like this, a guy on short notice I get he's a very formidable opponent. He's a good grappler, but Francis Marshall, I think this was also another good opportunity for you to make a name for yourself. Francis Fire Marshall is fire. It's cool. It's a really cool thing. But again, with the look and the style that's very clean, I think we got to see Francis Marshall bloodied up at some point. We got to see him bust somebody up. I need to see him get down and dirty. When he got robbed by Myron Santos, I would have wanted to see this performance. You would have came out and not let the judges do some shit again. Like, I need to come out here and make sure that I am the rawest guy in the cage, But I don't know. I feel bad for Francis because again, great performance, 100% by the books, did everything that he needed to do. But some fighters just don't have the ability to take risks sometimes. And I think with the wrestling base kind of deal and not landing as many strikes as, strikers do, that's the fun part of it. He's going to lend himself to be sort of this bland-ish kind of guy. And that's just what sucks because the skills are there. I think you just got to take a little risk sometimes. You got to make it look a little you got to just go for it sometimes. I don't know. It sucks.
No, I think that this is entirely valid criticism right here because you said he did everything right, but that's not entirely correct. The one thing he did not do correctly is finish this fight. And that is something that seems to be lost on a certain caliber of fighter is that when you are in that cage, your primary objective at all times is to finish the fight. It is not to go to the judges. It is not to skate by, even this was 30-27. This was a complete drubbing on one side, but that is not the objective at the end of the day. The objective is to end the fight as soon and as effectively as you can. And Francis Marshall, I think that you're really spitting some heavy facts here. And this also, again, as we always say in these kinds of situations, this comes out of a desire for Francis Marshall to be the best version of himself and to advance his career as such. If you had gotten a highlight worthy finish in this fight, that sets you apart. You do not do that. You stay somewhat middle of the pack. And again, also think in terms of this with this specific fight. This is a dude, again, like I described at the beginning, walking in off the street, basically. Now, I'm not saying that, I don't know all of Lucas Brennan's accolades. I'm sure he has, plenty of fine wins or whatever. He's 11-3. So he's obviously done some stuff. But to the average observer of this sport, this is not someone that they're all that familiar with. This is the perfect opportunity to get that finish and to create a highlight for yourself. Dude, they were talking about how many split decisions he has lost. That also does not track very well for you. If you're that guy who's just barely getting to a split decision and then not on the right side of it, you need to set yourself apart. So, I mean, I like Francis Marshall. I thought that this was a technically proficient fight, but I think what you were saying about taking some risks, it's not even necessarily being reckless with risk. It's going the extra mile to have the killer instinct element kick in when this fight was by the third round, this fight was definitely finishable. And you have to know that and you have to go for it.
It's not, and let me clarify and let me actually retract. Risk is not what I'm wanting necessarily because that would maybe be a negative connotation. Like, I want you to go out there and strike with somebody who's obviously a better striker than you. That's risky. I just want you to be more threatening. I want you to get the fight to the ground and you're going to finish something, and you're always looking to finish something. He flips over to his back. All right, we're going for this. He flips over. We're going for this, get them to the point where they're shifting, they're going from top bottom position, and then you find yourself in full mount, and then you finish the fight. That should always be the goal. Get them in the most compromised position while you are on top, and then now you have free reign to just do whatever we saw again. We saw with like Mike Mallet. You don't even have to land clean punches when they're cowered up. You just have to. The ref just has to realize that nothing else is happening. They will stop it eventually. If you are in full mount and it's not what happened, but that should just be the goal. Get to the point where you should finish the fight. And Francis Marshall, with a name like Francis Fire Marshall, you need to stop making people think that you're just like, it's Francis. They need to know that you're coming to torch some shit. Like, you need to, it's gotta be, you gotta live up to it. Again, Fire Marshal Bill, cool. Like, bro, go finish a fucking fight. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. When I did a video recently commenting on Moist Critical, he had some things to say about Dana White. And one of the points I made in that video was about it was a fighter pay kind of segment that we were talking about. And I was saying that, like, the organization's job is to find if the UFC is the best in the world, this is the premier organization, their job is to find the best people and by extension, pay them what they are worth as the best, right? You're in the organization of the best. You are now having to reprove yourself every fight. That's basically what you are doing fight over fight, is reproving that you are one of the best in the world. And if you lose a fight, then you now doubly have to reprove that. He now has a win that is just kind of a baseline win. you have to be of the caliber of the best in the world when you are here. That is what makes you part of the equation. Because my main point with saying this is that Francis Marshall, with that kind of performance, he could go to PFL and be extremely successful over there. I think he could go to Karate Combat. I would say there are plenty of other places that he could go and have a successful career. But in the UFC, as the premier organization, you have to be that extra bit better.
Here's the reality, and I'm just going to be real. Francis Marshall's best performance to date, right, was a split decision loss, which a lot of people thought he arguably won against Myron Santos. Now, the thing about that is, this is a multi-layered situation when you think, and I know this is last fight, but that was the best example that we saw of him. He gets a close win against Myron Santos at best, right? It's at best split decision for him. But also note that Myron Santos is a ultimate fighter. We have always been known that these are not the cream of the crop. So if your best win at best is potentially split decision win against somebody that we deem is probably not that good anyways, who continuously misses weight, who's not very great. I mean, and this is the performance afterwards. What am I supposed to believe? I don't know. Like, Francis Marshall's ceiling doesn't seem to be as high as we would want it to be.
Well, I mean, he gets the win. He'll get another fight out of it, I'm sure. We'll see if we see Lucas Brennan again. That's a bit questionable. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, Francis Marshall, again, there's an easy way to not have this be the conversation. Finish a fight. Everything changes with how we talk about it. So really, that's the ultimate takeaway because this was, I mean, and we're being hypercritical a little bit because we want better for him. But like, this was a fantastic performance by him, completely one sided fight. But you need to finish your fights. Finish your fights. So at the end of the day, end of the story.
Yeah, shout out Francis Marshall. I mean, listen, if you want to be the type of fighter that is celebrating with cigars and having shots at the bar, I know that's maybe not your style, but if you want to be the celebratory guy over a unanimous decision 30-27 win against Lucas Brennan here, that is fine. That is all that you are completely valid to do that. This is, biggest win to date, whatever you want to say. Brother, if you want to be great, if you want to be one of the greatest in the division or in the sport, you're in lightweight. There are some real killers. The dude who has the belt is a real killer. So you're gonna have to just, if you want to be that guy, you gotta show us that you're more than just Grant Dawson. Because at some point, if I see you get chinned, brother, I'm gonna just tell you right now, Grant Dawson comparison is adding up even more and more. But I digress.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that we've given Francis all of the walking papers, or the not the walking papers, but all of the friendly advice that we can at this point. But that being said, very good win in this fight because 30-27, that speaks for itself. This was completely one sided. So good job.
Hell yeah.
All right. So next up is Jafel Filio versus Cody Durden. Shout out again to John Dong and to Tyler Betts. Appreciate you both chatting it up in there. So okay, with this fight specifically, this what I had said earlier, I have to kind of choose my crash outs. This is that fight for me because there were certainly some questionable things that happened on Cody Durden's side in this fight. There were a couple of pretty decent fouls, one very major one that we'll talk about. But that being said, like I think that overall the performance from Durden was good enough, and like the fouls, like again, you have to weigh them against each other to the point of like, if you took all of the fouls off of the table, would the outcome have been different? And I don't know if I necessarily think that it would have in this fight. So because like I'm on the watch along, and a lot of people are in the chat getting very heated about this fight, and I was thinking to myself, why am I not getting as heated as they are about this fight? And like I went back and rewatched it, and I was like, the reason is because Cody Durden did really actually very well in this fight. I mean, like again, if you go back and hit it point by point, he actually really had a very solid fight here. And I know, see, and I can already see it starting to crop up in this chat. I'm telling you, upon rewatch here, this was actually a very solid fight for Cody Durden. Again, the fouls were something that puts it into a bad light. But if you take the fouls out of the equation, I thought that this was really almost kind of a one-sided fight at times. Cody Durden had a very good performance here, I thought.
I personally don't agree that it was a 30-27 win for Cody Durden. Maybe maybe I would say one judge could give it to Cody Durden, then we should have got a split decision for Jafel Filo. But I'm honestly not too mad about it because I'm not gonna lie to you guys. You would not catch me dead watching this one again. This was not that great of a fight in my opinion. This was another one that was you just kind of had two dudes out there doing it. I don't know if it was the short notice aspect, but I remember Bloomis. It's funny because I didn't open the message until the night after. You know, he messaged me. He's like, "This Jafel Filo dude looks like a killer, man. I like him." And then the next morning I was like, "So how'd that Jafel Filo pick work out for you?" It's just really funny because they can all look like fucking killers, man. And then they come out here against a dude who hasn't won in 4 fights and fucking lose, brother. Like I just can't believe it because and people want to talk about it was a robbery. Jafel won, blah 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 blah. But guys, that's not the real story, bro. Jafel Filo, I personally, I've never been sold on him too much. He's never been one of my fan favorites kind of deal. But guys, he just had a close robbery at best with Cody Durden. This dude has been finished by
Short notice too, by the way.
it, and hats off to Cody Durden. Again, always game. Another dude that I do respect at flyweight. You got to have a lot of skills to compete, and he's lost to a lot of skillful dudes. He's lost to the top, but he steps up against a lot of scary opponents. This one, I would say, is not as scary as some other people that he would have faced. He would just have to worry about the submission threat, and that's all he did. And he did a very good job navigating the fight. Did he win? Honestly, I want to say yes because I don't want to. I don't want to build Philo out. That's not. He had a shit performance, guys. Like, let's be
That
real.
see, there you go. And look, I understand that ended up being a bit of a contentious topic because I was saying I think that there's a little bit of a bias against Cody Durden, which people don't like the guy, whatever. They don't like his face, they don't like his fight style, they don't like he's got all the losses. Whatever it is about him, that's fine. But like I'm judging off of what I'm seeing in this fight. And you're right. Filio did not have a great fight in this fight. Like I mean, it was there were navigational issues because he's such a committed grappler. Like this is a dude who like he's got okay striking. I had in the notes, third round Filios did step up his striking a little bit because he knew he was down, but you can't just start turning up and start figuring out the striking that late in the fight if the grappling has not been effectively making it your fight, which it was not early in this fight. I say like Cody Durden had a couple of really good strikes early on in this fight. Started off with good striking, might have gotten away with an elbow to the back of the head. That's foul number one. He gets into the grappling exchanges with Filio, which is Filio's bread and butter. So I said, this is a dangerous game that Cody is playing. And then Filio finds a little bit of success in reversing some positions, whatever. Durden able to navigate Filio's offensive wrestling on the cage. So this is all good starts for him. It was a solid first round for Cody Durden. He said that someone had thought that he had a cage grab. It was actually Filio who was potentially grabbing the cage. He did not, so it didn't end up mattering. But I'm just saying this is the level of bias that people had where they were like, oh, I just because of how Cody Durden is fighting, I heard it earlier in the fight. I think that that might have been that might have been him. It's like, no, it wasn't. It was his opponent. So again, biases maybe creeping in a little bit. I'm just saying. Second round, Durden again with the striking, big strikes getting through. Filio over almost, excuse me, Filio almost went. That's what I was talking about. He almost went for the cage grab, whatever, didn't grasp it, no problem there. But then the axe kick to the dick. This is the big contention point. I agree that the axe kick to the dick probably should have been a point deduction. They were saying, it was direct impact. It's an axe kick from top down. Do I think it was intentional? No. But was it directly on the dick? Yeah, it fucking was. So I don't know. What do you think, Chase?
I think what's funny about that one is if you really break it down, yeah, he did the axe kick, yeah, he landed on the nuts, but Jafel Filo kicks his leg from under him, so like he's falling backwards as like it's kind of funny. So he like they kick him in the knee, he kind of stilted his leg a little bit. So yeah, he kind of leaned back a little further than he was intending, I guess. So it's kind of funny in my opinion. At least that's how I recall it. But no, it was definitely a clean shot to the dick. And the funniest part, of course, is Jason Herzog getting picked up on the mic. I know you didn't mean to do it, but you literally kicked him in the balls, dude. Like it's very
Oh, for
great.
sure.
Love
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. So, I mean, like, look, if you want to say that that's the reason why he, deserved a point deduction, and that should have been what lost him the fight or made it a majority draw or whatever. That's, completely fine if you believe that. I also think that a point deduction would have been warranted in that situation, especially if we're in the era of taking points. It did not happen that way. Then the rest of the fight just keeps on going on with Cody Durden doing really decent striking and navigating of all of the grappling situations. I said solid wrestling for Cody. Then soccer kicks the body. I said he was playing with fire with that after the axe kick, but he landed it clean. Like there was one other time that he might have gotten another shot to the back of the head. So, like I said, there are caveats to this, but overall, I said it sucks that there were so many fouls on Cody's side because I thought he won all 3 rounds.
And to clarify, Hydra, I'm not agreeing that Cody Durden won. That's not what I'm saying. I do not agree that Jafel Philo should have won. This dude fucking sucks. I mean, he ain't very good. Like one judge could have gave it to Cody Durden and the other ones would have gave it to Philo. Whatever, scandalous as ever, cool, bing bang boom. I don't really care. But nothing really happened in this fight that makes me want to say that either of them really definitively won it. Either judge, three of the judges, two of the judges could have fucked off and gave it to either one of them, and it wouldn't have changed anything to me. Neither one of them won this fight, is what I feel. I mean, they were in there, and it was a very close contest, but 30-27, I don't think that is correct for Cody Durden. One judge maybe give him that or something, give him the fight. Jafel Filo doesn't deserve to win the fight, is the way I should say it. I know I maybe said it incorrect earlier, but he doesn't deserve to win a fight with a performance like this. This is going back to, other people that we've already talked about. Like you gotta look better than this. You are the guy that is not on a 4-fight skid, and you let this dude come in here with a whole head of steam and show that he can still compete with the top, kind of deal. Like, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, watching it back, Durden off of damage is really what it comes down to for me. I mean, like, I thought he did the better work throughout the entirety of this fight. He had to navigate some pretty decent grappling exchanges because that's what Filio wanted to do. Again, the fouls put a dark cloud over it. I don't agree with that. I don't like that he got away with those fouls. Again, I think a point deduction would have been warranted, but it didn't get taken. And I think he did the better work throughout the fight. So if you take the fouls off of the table, he won this fight. Again, we can look at it differently as far as like the X's and O's, but that's my assessment.
Listen, I know you guys know me. I have a checkered past when it comes to calling the fouls and how I feel personally about them and what's good and what's not. But are we guys we've seen multiple fouls get committed in bouts, Are we really over here talking about Cody Durden with one low blow?
It's because of the buy. This is what I'm trying to get at, dude. Look,
Mm.
you guys can hate the guy if you want to, but you got to be accurate in the assessment of the actual facts of the fight. That's what I'm trying to express in all of this. I'm not even the hugest Cody Durden fan. I'm not trying to stick up for this guy out of some kind of like allegiance to him. I'm trying to say that this is based on what I saw in this fight. This is who I thought won it. So if you have some pre-existing notion about the guy, then fair enough. But in this fight with this opponent, with the circumstances that happened here, this is what it was. So again, take it or leave it,
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting. Hmm.
Well, again, I know that you cannot extract the fouls, but if they don't get called as fouls, then what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean?
True. I agree. The judges cannot score something that is not tallied on the score sheet. A negate in the scoring system is tallied up. If something doesn't get tallied up, how are you supposed to act? You
Yeah.
can't judge it according to the scoring system because it doesn't exist.
And I said I agree that it should have been a point deduction. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like I think it should have been. I mean, like you get a direct shot like that. That is a definite like terrible moment there. But
An a an axe kick, yes, I agree. It's not about the severity of the move itself. I mean, it's about the targeted area. Yes, they landed an illegal strike, no matter if it was, with an elbow, with, a forearm, 12-6. An illegal strike occurred. I don't, it's not a double whammy like, oh, he did a 12-6 and it was on the back of it's he landed the back of the head strike or whatever, or groin shot in this scenario. Judge it as any other foul and give him a hard warning. I mean, we stopped the fight. Filio got to lay there for a second, like
yeah, I was gonna say if
it,
you're mad at anybody, be mad at Jason Herzog. I mean, he's the one that has the power to take the point.
Why are we taking a point after? I mean, listen, guys. Again, I'm pretty sure if you watch it, I'm pretty sure Philo kicks his knee and he like falls back a little bit, so the axe kick falls short, and instead of hitting him in the stomach, it hits him in the dick. It's I'm not saying it's right, but like, guys, it's it's one foul. We talk about how many fouls you can get away with all the time. You can get away with at least two cage grabs, two eye pokes, but not one nut kick. I
Yeah,
mean, we see nut knees all the time.
and of all people to like be saying that this is like something that I don't care about, I talk all the time about changes and improvements to the oversight of this sport. So like, yeah, it is an issue that I care a lot about.
Oh,
This is what happened in this fight though. You know what I mean? Like I'm going off of what we saw.
no, shout out Tyler Betts because he just made me remember, bro, the round ended 10 seconds early when there was a fucking submission in there.
Oh gosh, yes, I did forget about that fact. Yeah, that's actually the more egregious thing of all of this, by the way. Yeah, like that, and the same thing happening in the Silva versus Jasudavicius fight, also
Mhm.
being another big thing. That if there's ever something to be like really concerned about, I would say that is one of the more major concerns out of this fight. So thank you for reminding that.
Yeah, no, that's worrisome. How many finishes are we gonna see slip out of our hands? Because they just happen to blow the horn early, or the referee just happens to call the fight early, like it definitely is not a good thing because they want you to believe they're like, oh, we have a clock in here it's synced, that one's good to go. It's the main running clock, the TV broadcast clock is off, but like, mate, if I'm looking at the fucking time and the horn goes off, and if it don't match, I'm definitely in a fucking fuss. I don't care what you think the reasoning is. If the shit don't match on my screen, I'm going to be mad. So,
Yeah,
crazy.
absolutely. No. So again, be mad about the oversight of the sport. That is the thing that you should be really railing about on all of this. I am certainly a person who has made that very apparent how I feel about it. If I mean, like, I'll put the video out at some point, going over all the grievances, and then that can get shared out as the thing is like the master work of like how we all feel about this, and you can maybe hope that something comes from that. But when it comes down to this specific fight, I think that there was the circumstances were as they were. This was not the most egregious that I have ever seen as far as all of the problems go. I mean, like
Cool.
this is certainly a bad foul. I definitely think it was a bad foul. I think the point should have been taken, etc. Already said all of this stuff. Don't need to relitigate everything. But that all being said, the facts of the fight were as they were. Cody Durden gets the win. I'm okay with that.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep this train moving here. This was an interesting one to me. It's interesting elements to this fight, I would say. This is Myra Bueno Silva versus Michelle Montague. Now, Michelle Montague is certainly a credentialed wrestler, grappler. I mean, like she is certainly proving that to be the case. We talked about it on the last episode. How she ended up with those scorecards that were so one sided in her last fight. It's got to be, we didn't, neither of us remembered the details off rip. So I got to assume that it was all off of just tremendous positional wrestling and her chain wrestling and all of those elements of it. That being said, her striking certainly does leave a little bit to be desired. And I really hope that she can improve that because I do think that she is very big for, she's just a big woman in general. So like she commands a lot of power. And if she can harness that in her hands the same way that she can do it on the ground, she could be a really formidable threat going forward. But this kind of did expose a couple of holes in that department, I would say.
Um, a couple holes. I'm not there yet. I think this fight. I thought first round amazing. I thought she looked very very. I mean, obviously she just ran right over and fucking tackled her. I mean, it was picked her up, slammed her right on the mat. It was dominance from the jump. And it was very good. But it's unfortunate, and this is something that a lot of fighters have to deal with. It's a very good thing that if the only thing that I would say is the issue that I see is that you need to work on your cardio because after a full round of dominance, now again, doing great offense is taxing. You're not just going to be fresh. You're exerting energy as well, but it's not necessarily the most dominant first round. She picked her up, she slammed. Oh, interesting.
We there? We good? All right.
I think we are good. Yeah. So the first round, she picked her up and slammed her, and then she controlled her for the remainder of that round. It's not like she was putting on vicious ground and pound, but she controlled her. Now, going into the second round, you can instantly see a difference. She was labored. She was not looking too hot. Now, this is where you would surely and rightfully, or wrongfully is the better term. You would wrongfully assume that with the veteran experience from MBS, she's gonna win this fight. You see how tired Montague is. And the unfortunate part is Myra Bueno Silva is is just not, she's just useless in there, I guess, bro. I mean, what I hesitated to say it so many times because I don't really want to be that mean, because seems like a nice lady. I have no issues with her. But honestly, you have a person who's not very experienced, they're very green and they're tired, and you have them with 10 minutes left on the clock. Where is the the game? There's, it's not even game planning. It's literally just like the feeling. You got to feel like my opponent is right where I want him. I could do anything. Like if you just hit him with a sidestep, she's going to throw a jab out there and it's going to be labored, and then all you got to do it, anything, you just got to have an idea of what you can do to win the fight. How does she never look like she has the way to win? You know, she went for the fucking ninja choke again, and it's like, all right, she almost got it, and then when she didn't get it, it's like, that was your Hail Mary against Holly Holm too, brother, and it's gone. You know, I just don't like again, when you go back to the Brazilian base of women who just plod forward, stand around with their hands up, but the hands aren't moving, and you're supposed to be told that they're a black belt somewhere. Like I don't get, because Michelle Montague, again, she's somebody who's it's her second fight in the organization. What does she know about anything in the UFC yet? You know, you've seen people at the highest level. You faced and beat somebody who beat Ronda Rousey, and now you just got dominated by somebody in their second UFC fight. Like, I just, it sucks that we're here, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think that Myra Bueno Silva will possibly go down as one of the most dramatic backslides that we have seen in women's MMA. I mean, this is a person, if you chart from her title shot to now, it's been nothing but constant regression. I mean, like there's no other way to say it. This is someone who was challenging for a belt a handful of fights ago, and now she is losing to once removed from a debut fighter. That's really not great.
I'm not, listen, the only person that I can see, and the only person that's even comparable when you get to like this level of the sport, you know, somebody that was potentially close to fighting for a belt, you know, you look at somebody like Tai Tuivasa, and the backslide is just, it's
Yeah.
like,
It's off a
that's what you're
cliff. Yeah.
seeing here. It's
For sure.
crazy.
Yeah, and again, the other thing too that highlights this extremely well, we'll talk about the first round where Montague was coming out hot. She got Silva down in the first 3 seconds and stayed there, position to position, full control, little striking here and there, but not much. This was a 10-8 round, in my opinion, for Montague. I think it was, man. I mean, like, that's fair if I don't think any of the judges ended up doing that.
No,
So that's fine. But to me, I think that it was qualified for it. She didn't do hardly anything. Point is that if I'm even thinking about that, based on what we literally just talked about, her going from title shot to here, having what was very close, if not a 10-8 round against a second from debut performer, this is very, very bad. I mean, no, I will say, at least, just in her defense to a minor extent, Myra did recognize how bad that first round was because she came out swinging in the second round a little bit. Then there was the ninja choke that you had mentioned. Got out, Montague got out of that. She Montague hit the stop, drop, and roll on that one. And then I poked Silva on the stand up, by the way. No foul called on that one. There's another one where it's like everybody's getting mad about Cody Durden with the fouls, and there were a bunch of fouls in this fight that no one seemed to care about. But then so she has all of those elements of it, right? She comes out a little bit hot. Montague in the stand up keeps her hands low, her chin is out. I said, get your guard up at one point, like just at all. But it's like Myra not taking the initiative to recognize that and capitalize on it just allows Montague to regain control and then more solid offense for, like later on in the fight. I mean, like it's not the caliber of fighter that you once were. And at this stage where you have gotten to, like, you should really be way farther than that, which is kind of crazy to think. I mean, she is 10-7 now. This record is atrocious, and this fighting is showing exactly, what that looks like. This is completely appropriate for that record.
what I find also interesting, and I'm not trying to, I know people have made this point, and I'm just bringing it up because I think it's true. MBS, having the whole substance with Adderall or whatever the case may be, which
Prescribed, but yeah.
I I honestly I think there is some validity in the performance enhancing, and I'm not saying it's making her better, but it is making a decision maker out of them, and I say the same thing when it came to the nicotine. I think if people are pouching in the gym, that's fine, that's one thing, but I think having the ability to smoke a cigarette before your fight or whatever, drink a beer, anything like you can think of, these are obviously going to have effects on the brain that would make combat sports, different, So I think it's key to note that the last win that MBS had unfortunately came when she was on, the prescribed substance, but that was the last performance where you ever saw the spark, I guess, And not to say really was it even that good of a performance? Do we know? I don't know. I wasn't there for it, but she got the ninja choke. Who's to say she couldn't have just got it in this fight? Who's to say she didn't get it in the last two fights? She's doing all the same things, She's just not getting it anymore because people are wise to it, I guess. I don't know. There's a lot to go over.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps, I don't know exactly how much that specific, a prescription affects that type of stuff, but you're right. I mean, it does affect it one way or another. So even though it is prescribed, if it is on the banned list, it's on the banned list, and that's really the end of the story with that. So oh well on that part of things. But yeah, I mean, whatever the reasoning is, it really is almost secondary in my opinion because the outcome is what you care about the most. And you've been now seeing fight over fight, just terrible performances. Also, her. Granted, she sort of has a surly like look about her all the time, so it's hard to know when she is frustrated and when she's just kind of looking that way. But in this fight, hits the illegal kick to the face while Montague is downed, no point deducted on that one either. No one really upset about that. But I'm saying, could have been a little bit of frustration there, possibly seeping in. But again, that also just goes back to you not doing your best or doing what you can do. I mean, like not doing better than what you are currently doing, whether it's your best or otherwise. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to do better. Fucking end of story. I mean, this is a pretty simple thing to get your head around.
No, I definitely agree. Yeah, this was the the illegal upkick. That definitely was funny because the commentary, I'm pretty sure they're like, that's legal. That was legal. And then you watch the replay, brother, whole leg on the ground. What are we talking about here? Like, are
And
you?
directly on the face. Yeah, I mean, there's no two ways about it. Both the knees down and kick to face. There's,
Yeah.
that's about as illegal as it gets. But again, no point deduction on that or the pokes to the eyes for Montague. So whatever.
Which, listen, somebody has made the point before. We would talk about, the damaging blow. An up kick is one of the crazier shots to take. And somebody in the comments, I don't remember which chat it was. They're like, we've all been in that spot where your little cousin or whatever is just throwing a flurry of kicks up and you get caught with one. That shit hurts, brother.
I mean, and what if she had pulled the Macy Barber and did the little stumble walk and all that? Yeah, I mean, just saying, people get on Macy Barber's case like it wasn't valid, but if she was selling, then it sells.
See, it's funny though. We still have yet to see anybody, Melissa Gatto. Sorry, she did do a little, but Macy Barber. I'm not even going to get into it, but Michelle Montague took the shot like a champ. No performance needed. Obviously, she didn't get the point taken. So maybe if she would have done a little performative act, she could have got the point taken, but she didn't need it. She was dominating her. The fact that a round even went to MBS is pretty fucking nuts here, but whatever.
Yeah, second round where she kind of turned up a little bit. I guess you can kind of, give her the sympathy round if you want to call it that. But either way, this was not it, and it was a fine win for Montague, who, if she can develop a good cardio base and get her striking up to par, could be a legitimate threat. So, I
Mhm.
mean, definitely keep your eye on Michelle Montague because she might be on the come up. I mean, I don't want to speak too soon on it, but a performance like this, you will have to see her against somebody who's actually trying a little harder. But all it takes is a little bit more cardio and some better striking.
I think what's key about bantamweight, just this will be my last point. What's key about bantamweight is if she fits the build. With bantamweight right now, you have Kayla Harrison, who you know is a fucking monster. You have Amanda Nunes, who's a monster. And then you look at people. When you look at bantamweight, you got to see who's actually filling out for this division. Jocelyn Edwards fills out for the division. When you look at somebody like Luana Santos, she just has a smaller frame. When I think of her, I'm like, there's just no way if she's underneath one of these massive women, Melissa Croden or Montague. How is she going to get up? She's going to have to bank on having some good jujitsu off her back. But even then, who's throwing triangles up anymore, guys? Like, I don't know. But
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, I would say that she's on the bulkier side. She's certainly powerful. With her, like her lower body power is like definitely there. You can see it when she's moving. So, well, again, we'll have to see her against a higher level of competition, but certainly a prospect potentially on the rise.
what's crazy? God damn. She's 8-0, never has TKO'd anybody, but she does have 6 subs. So she does have some good grappling. I'll give her that one, but she needs to go to city kickboxing like already. Just get the striking already. That's
Yeah,
what I'm asking.
there you go. I mean, really, if she did that, I think that she might be like seriously a problem, at
Yeah,
some point. So get the cardio up, get the boxing up. We'll see what happens to her in the future. Myra Bueno Silva does not retire, even though I thought that she should now that she is an expectant mother. But we'll see if we see her again for a while.
true.
All right, next up, this was fun. This was Jackson McVeigh versus Cedricus Dumas. Chase, I don't know if you know this, but the moose is now loose.
This guy, listen, I called it how it was. The way Jackson McVeigh was in the first round against Zachary Reese. I mean, I have no more questions. If this dude is gonna, I mean, he's not here to go to decision. It's clear. I mean, he just walks in, goes forward, and he's not really a guy that puts his hands up and defends. When he puts his hands up, it's to reach out and grab you so he can just do anything, like. And to his credit, he's got good size for it. He's really tall, he's really lanky, he can throw elbows and knees very easily. And when you have somebody like Cedricus Dumas, I mean, it just takes one fucking punch. It takes one, and it's crazy to think about that. It's not. Obviously, it was a little shovel. Through the front, it was great, but it's not even. When they talk about what Asmat did to Rakic, a power jab, brother. If you get destroyed by a jab, you were just not built for this competition right here. Like Larry and Douglas, I get it. I wouldn't want to be there either. Julian Erosa, you should have shot, but this one right here, Cedricus Dumas gets just a quick little shot right in the middle, popped, dropped, and then he gets submitted. What I find funny is at the end of the fight, and he's laying there and the cameras, panned on him. He's like holding his face. Like if he genuinely took some structural damage from that shot to his face, like you weren't built for it, brother. I don't know. Like I hate to say it, but we know Dumas has got the past where I can laugh about this and feel no bad about it.
Oh yeah, no, I mean this was another classic folding from Cedricus Dumas for sure. As I've said several times at this point, when the fight is going exactly as he wants it to go, he can have an okay performance. As soon as it becomes a fight that he is not anticipating or it gets a little bit too hairy for him, he will fold like new laundry, like fresh laundry. And that is certainly what happened here. And really, it was coming from McVeigh's side. I thought that he did really well early in this fight. I talk about being first all the time. This is a guy who was fucking first for real. He goes straight to work, pushes Dumas all the way back across the cage in the clinch. Loved that. He was hitting shoulder strikes in that clinch. I loved that. I was like, bro, there's a guy named Conor McGregor. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he had a fight with Cowboy Cerrone where he like damaged his orbital with shoulder strikes. They can hurt. So I mean, like, if that is the weapon that is available to you at the time and you utilize it to the best of your ability, I absolutely love it. And he did that very nicely here. So
You
what's
know,
up?
I just find it crazy is like people talk about the fighter pay and like they're like, yeah, 12 and 12. It's like, guys, this is the guy that makes 12 right here and he only gets 12 and he shows up for his 12 every time and he loses for his 12 every time. And like I hate to say it, but like there's two thought processes here. I hate the fact that the UFC is paying somebody who is going to just come in here and just fold like instantly, like 2 minutes, sure, one encounter. But the other part is again, I think, and this is just a broader topic. People like Cedricus Dumas. People who have some sort of checkered past. I do believe that this is the sport that they need to be in, because you cannot put them in retail. You cannot put them in an office desk job. Bouncer, sure, but like this right here, if they have some sort of star potential, if they have the X factor, Cedricus Dumas has a decent fan base. Not even just fan bases, but people who want to hate him. So there's there's a there's a level of star power there. When people hate what you do, you have a little bit of leverage over them, whatever you want to say. But Cedricus Dumas, we got to stop paying him at this point. But at the same time, I still believe he needs to go to an organization that would love to have somebody who's ready to get their fighters propped up,
Oh yeah, no, I mean the fighter pay element of it comes with the caveat. It's pay the fighters more and don't pay Cedricus Dumas.
Yeah,
Period. You know
there
what I
you
mean? So
true.
like
Fair.
higher caliber of fighter, pay them more, not this. So yeah, I mean, I think everything tracks. I also said on the watch along that the only reason that I root for Cedricus Dumas is so that the streets of Central Florida remain safe, because the second that he is not in the organization, who knows what's going to be happening in my backyard. But
True.
that being said, no, again, on the McVeigh side, though, this is the performance I was really hoping out of him for sure. This is the exact right opponent for it. Like you said, the kind of the shovel uppercut, jab ish, whatever you want to call that, got him to the ground and pound initiated, goes transitions into the Darce. All very nice work from all of this. And, like a guy who, like you said, this is what Francis Marshall could benefit from, that type of killer instinct. This guy goes in there to win the fight. He's not participating, he is winning. And I
Yeah.
liked that, out of this performance. I also liked that, we know his name because we follow the sport. I'm glad that, that it's being spoken about in this type of a venue, because not only did Bruce Buffer almost not announce him, period, at the start of this fight. I don't know if you caught that.
I definitely. I was like, what happening? Wait, they're going. I was like, are they introducing him again? Like, I was confused on what happened here. Yes.
Yeah, Bruce just almost forgot altogether to announce Jackson McVeigh at the start of this thing. That was number one. And then number two was DC at the end, completely fumbling his name. Jackson McVeigh.
Nice.
Oh, okay. And then the other funny thing at the end too is Jackson McVeigh, for whatever reason, I think he was just trying to be funny, but he hits the Liverpool accent in his post-fight comment, his speech, and then DC goes, "You're not Irish."
Yeah.
Ireland and Liverpool is in England, by the way.
Oh, nice. Yeah. He's great for that.
So anyway, I'm just saying, I'm glad that at least we know his name, so somebody does, because he got a nice victory here and almost didn't get his name said correctly anywhere.
What I want to say about Jackson McVeigh, and these things are really hard to capture a moment. A picture's worth 1,000 words. When he did the Iceman celebration, it's not oftentimes that you nail something. It's like sometimes it's just not, but that was like a pretty picture perfect imitation of the Iceman celebration. And I mean, obviously he didn't knock him out. It's kind of an interesting celebration to go ahead and do after a submission win, but
Sure.
I'll go ahead and take it. I like him. There's some people, they get labeled, Terrence McKinney, famous guy who never goes to decision. Whenever you have, Yuri, he's the Chetch McKinney. This is our honored Brendan Allen McKinney, because this is him right here. I love him. Love
Yeah.
Moose.
Well, so how long before you say he needs to cut the hair, though?
You know, and he's already, listen, he's got 2 losses already. He's not obviously not here to be the greatest of all time. He's here to put on bangers, and I actually just appreciate that. So if you're here to just get in and get out, you're not going to be flipping the hair around. Obviously he braids it, it's a little different, but nobody does the Clay Guida anymore. It's kind of crazy, but I can see why. I don't know.
True. All right, fair enough. Well, either way, I mean, McVeigh gets the nice win here. We're gonna have to see if they keep Cedricus after this. I mean, like, good Lord, how
He
many
says they
times?
are
Okay. If he says that they are, then fair enough. More Cedricus
at a
Dumas and more.
different weight, brother. He's
Oh,
going down to 70.
well, everything's going to change then. New era incoming, everybody. Future Hall of Famer. Saw Jeremy Hall say that earlier, and I guess we just have to wait for the weight drop for that to be the case.
100%.
All right, but in the meantime, Jackson McVeigh getting the job done by submission. Gotta love it. I think I was very happy with this.
No, yeah, that was good.
All right. And before we move on, of course, shout out to Didgery Dave coming in. Appreciate you, brother. This fight right here is Rodolfo Vieira. He fought Eric McConico. This fight should really be a lesson in not betting on fights where both fighters kinda aren't great, I think.
I I'm listen, when it comes to betting, some fights, people are like, "Oh, no, you gotta stay away from something like that because two guys the finishing potential is too crazy. You don't know who's gonna win." Fights like this, I definitely agree. You have a guy and this is a guy who would have told you to bet on Vieira. Like, this is just a funny thing, and this is why you don't bet on somebody like this, is because you you watch this fight. Now, first round, I'm pretty sure that's where we got the knockdown was in the first round,
Correct, yeah.
and McConaughey is just running across the fucking cage and slipping around everywhere. It was one of the craziest scenes. But Vieira, you watch the fight slip away from him slowly and slowly in this fight. It's not one thing that McConaughey did that was great. To be fair, he did not much that was great. The fact that he beat Vieira was great. Yes, it was a performance. It was a performance. But I'm not saying that this wasn't Vieira's fight to just win, you know. Eric McConaughey, there was so many moments where he would just do something that was so small, and it just happened to work. And Vieira is just like looking like a fucking he don't know what just hit him. He thinks that he's got like the craziest person in front of him, and it's literally just Eric McConaughey, bro. Like, you literally just knocked him down in the first round. Like,
Well,
I don't get it.
what I would say, I'll at least give a little bit of a bone to McConaughey to an extent here. One thing I thought that he did well in this fight is that after the first round with the knockdown, he incrementally over the course of the fight retook it. That I thought was respectable at the very least. But that comes with the pairing handshake agreement with Vieira slowly fading throughout basically after the knockdown. I mean, this Hidalgo Vieira, I thought that his striking had improved after going with the nerds. I still think that there is something to that. Obviously, he got the knockdown. There's a little bit of an improvement in the striking department, but you can't have striking if you don't have cardio. Period. We've seen this from plenty of fighters who get so tired they cannot lift their arms. Vieira was in a position second round, starting to gas. It was starting early in that round too. It gave McConaughey the ability to just, like I said, incrementally, like you said, it was small things. It wasn't like any kind of crazy explosive action. It was decent at best striking. No power on it. I mean, that's one thing I say about McConaughey. No power in the hands. I mean, like, this is not a threat when it comes to knockouts as far as we have seen. And Rodolfo Vieira probably should have been the time to show that if you do have it. So it's not going to be that. It's just a slow, and this is the tortoise and the hare in this fight. Slow and steady won the race for McConaughey. I think it tracks. I mean, it was unfortunate for Vieira because he did have the good first round, but this is how you win a fight if you do get knocked down in the first round. Slow and steady, outpace your opponent, and if Vieira's going to gas, then that's how it happens.
Yeah, this one, I just it sucks because Eric McConaughey, I mean, I have no problem with him. Vieira, this one, the biggest problem that I have with this fight is that it was the featured prelim.
Same. I thought the exact same thing. I was like, this is your featured prelim. This is supposed to be the banger slot on the prelims going into main card. It certainly was not that.
Yeah, no, this fight on paper sucked, and it sucked even worse watching. That's the hard part about this. It's like Vieira, and yeah, you're right. I mean, just every moment he was just getting slower as time ticked on. He would throw a little combination. Eric McConaughey would do something that just it didn't win the encounter, but he would just slip something, and Vieira would just like he'd plod over, and it's like, oh my god, all right, he won that one, sure, and then we'd see it again, and then McConaughey would land something. It's like, oh my fucking god, can you just stop falling for the basic things that he's doing? It's just crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's really about it. I don't have too much else to say about it. It was certainly a fight that happened. Another one of those. McConaughey did win this fight through determination to continue to stay in the fight, and that is respectable to an extent. But as we talked about with the Francis Marshall, even though that was more of a masterclass, this certainly was not that. You have to create your own opportunities in the same way that you have to create your own highlights, in the same way that you have to make your wins memorable and set yourself apart. This was not that.
100%.
All right. Well, I mean,
Thankfully, we didn't have much to say on it.
yeah, really, it didn't even have any like crazy, like, weirdness in it. I mean, there was one time I have in the notes where McConaughey grabbed the fence, no warning or stoppage in action, whatever. I mean, okay, fine. It's not, yes, I don't appreciate the fence grab, but it's not something to talk about.
No scandalism, no skill, just straight ass.
There's your featured prelim.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the first fight of the main card. A little bit more action in this one. Marcus Buchecha, he fought Ryan Spann. This was a noticeably slimmer Buchecha, I thought. It looked like he had taken his weight training a little bit more seriously in this fight. Unfortunately, he did not take his actual fighting more seriously because Superman Spann was here to get the dub.
Yeah, and Buchecha in phenomenal shape. Across from him is fucking is a Goozy, apparently Alvin Hines or something, because they were talking about Ryan Spann as if he was the fattest man that you've ever seen in your life, and comparatively to what he was, sure, you would probably, oh my god, he looks huge. It's like, guys, he doesn't even look that bad for 265. He looks like he could fight at 300 and probably still look like a decently shaped human being, whatever you want to say. But like this fight here is one, and I know I talked about well, actually we'll talk about it in the main event. I hate watch that I didn't necessarily love. This this was top tier. This was one of the best ones because not only did you see Ryan Spann engaging with the wrestling and the grappling and proving that, like, bro, you're nothing. I don't care how many competitions you've won in no gi or whatever you've done. It doesn't matter. I have a tattoo of Superman's logo on my chest, and I'm just I'm a true man, And he proved. It's just really funny when you see jujitsu just not working, because there was the perfect moment where Ryan Spann's on top, and then he's trying to get up or something, and Buchecha tries to sweep around and get his back, and then he falls off, and you're like, "Oh, you're the grappling king over there, huh?
Brother,
Oh, brother."
I mean, just nailing it so hard with this because I literally have in the notes when Ryan Spann is going toe to toe with you in the wrestling department, does the credentialed grappling even matter?
Uh,
It's real. I mean, this guy is proving it time and time again, this Buchecha, and all of the belts and the medals and the accolades and the banners and the this and the that and the other thing do not matter in the slightest when you get knocked the fuck out by a power shot from Ryan Spann and have been having the performances that have informed this being the outcome from the jump. We have talked about this guy since he has come into the UFC, having this level of competition in MMA. This is the primest of prime examples of a person to show you that a solid base in one area does not equal success in mixed martial arts.
What I will say, before I get into talking about my favorite portion of the fight, obviously with the finish, there was 3 warnings on eye pokes here.
I was going to talk about that too,
That
sure.
that was the interesting one here, is because Buchecha reaches out, Ryan Spann is like, yo, and then whatever, I forget who the ref was at
It
the
was
time,
Herb.
and he's like, that's who I thought it was, and he's like, fingers, fingers, Buchecha, and then he tells him again, and then he stops the fight at the end, and he's like, look, you need to keep your hand, whatever. But so anyway, the fight ends up getting a gnarly finish, the finish that we dreadfully were needing for Buchecha, of course. Ryan Spann sets him up with the three, show the three, bang the two, whatever they want to say, drops him like, bro. This is going to be epic. Somebody needs to clip it. Whenever you see like the memes that are people falling and then it's like the food on the grill, like that's, this dude fell like salmon hitting a fucking skillet. Like, it's crazy, bro. He fell so hard. And the follow-up shots, I'm not going to lie to you, in real time I was thinking he probably could have got a follow-up shot or two. Come on, Herb. Like, you don't have to stop it like that. But when you watch the replay, Buchecha was not even in, he wasn't in the same realm, dude.
Done,
Yeah.
donezo, done, done, done. Yes, no, absolutely.
And that's just perfect too for a jujitsu nerd to finally get hit in the face so hard that not, going unconscious is one thing, but being hit so hard that you're conscious, but you're not, like, that's what we needed. That's what we definitely needed from Buchecha. And I'm sorry, bro. I know, like, I'm laughing at your downfalls or whatever, but like, these are the tests that you're gonna have to overcome. If you want to be great, I hate to break it to you, Brian Spann putting you down on your ass, stars spinning, Tweety birds and shit, like, it's gonna happen more often than not if Ryan Spann's doing it to you, bro.
Lost to Boudet, split over Kennedy, lost
Two
to
lo-
Span.
two losses to Anthony Smith,
Uh,
Ryan Spann.
oh well, yeah, that's the other side. Yeah, I mean, I'm saying like when it comes to Buchecha, like really you're having a firsthand like master class speed run of understanding what it is like to be a heavyweight in the UFC at this point, and it's not adding up for you. I mean, like, and I don't have any specific problem with him, but really, it's how he was sold to us. I think that's really where all of this is coming from. Because Span at one point he got silly. He goes for the guillotine. It baited Buchecha into getting onto the ground, and then Span turns that into some top down striking. So basically, you were biting on an extended feint to an extent. You know what I mean? Like he basically like faked a position to get you down. You took the bait, and now you're getting punched from the top. That will happen. Buchecha ends up on the ground. Span finds an exit, just sprints away. How'd you let that happen, master grappler? These are all of the little minor points here that end up equaling up to this guy not being it. And the major one I wanted to bring up, Chase, I don't know if you saw this because I posted it very late at night. I posted a meme in the Discord. It said, this guy has every ADCC, every IBJJF, whatever, every accolade that you could ever imagine as far as grappling goes. Never getting anything even close to finishes with it in the UFC. You've got Walter Walker, who I believe they said was like either a blue belt or a purple belt, who has 4 heel hook submissions, 5 or whatever the number is at this point. How does this equal up? The answer, and I'll tell you the answer. The answer is Walter Walker is a mixed martial artist who is applying BJJ. This is a BJJ practitioner who is trying to masquerade as an MMA fighter, and it will not work.
I'm just glad that reality comes quick enough in this sport that you can see an arc like this. You can see somebody come in with the hype and then you can see it fall flat on its face. Sometimes it's really fucking good to see. I'm not gonna lie, because Buchecha, we all know, is not very good. We knew Kennedy fucking flopped hard when it came to
True.
that. Buchecha also flopped because you can't, if you can't show us against somebody who's doing nothing, like, brother. Anyway, so I think the most telling portion of this fight, and I truly believe, other than the knockout, yes, the funniest portion was when Buchecha tried to take his back and Ryan Spann just got up and he fell off. And it's not even that he fell off; it's that you know he's a big heavyweight guy. So when he falls, it's a big thud. It's not like, so for him to like get carried up a little bit and then fall. It's hilarious because like it's like, bro, yeah, no fucking shit, you're gonna fall off his back. You're like 400 pounds, dude. Like, fuck.
Yeah, no,
Ah,
and I don't want to give the impression that like I am also a hater of this guy. It's not about that because I would like there to be a heavyweight who could pull off the things that he was being sold to us to be able to do. Like if he came in here and used all of that BJJ and was just submitting guys left and right, I'd be like, damn, that's what this division needs, because certainly it needs something. And now we're getting Josh Hokett, who is actually delivering that to an extent in different ways, and I'm not exactly happy about all of what comes with him. But my point is that we need, this division is in dire need of new blood and interesting fights to revitalize the otherwise very stagnant heavyweight division. He could have been that. So this not working out for him with what he has, it's unfortunate to me in the big picture, but I think that it tracks. I think that that's more of where I come from with all of this, is that sucks to be right is how I feel about it. Because it's like we knew that a one-dimensional guy who is very good at one thing is not going to be successful in that way. As I said, Hokett's a guy who was a wrestler earlier on in his lifetime, has striking as well. He's a mixed martial artist now. You are one-dimensional. One-dimensional don't cut it. So again, sucks to be right.
I can understand why a lot of people wouldn't like Ryan Spann. I personally don't know much about him. I've seen him fight a few different times. The times that I've seen him fight, he's impressed me. And this is a long career that I've missed majority of. But heavyweight Ryan Spann, I mean, you guys can talk about how overweight he may potentially look, but guys, this might be what we thought Kennedy could be. Now, obviously, we'll see, but Ryan Spann might be interesting. Might be interesting here.
Well, I think it's because Ryan Spann had his time to already prove that he was or was not that, you know?
True, fair.
But either way, got the win here, and that is what matters for today. So shout out to Ryan Spann, got the job done, and we'll see what they do with Buchecha now, because I mean, this record is not great, you know. I mean, especially as a debuting fighter in the organization, 5-3, 5-3-1 now. People just
Yes.
keep that in mind.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the next one here. This is one of the more controversial ones of the evening. This is Montel Jackson versus Hani Barcelos. This one was kind of felt one way in the moment. Rewatch made me feel slightly different. I have a lot of opinions about this, but why don't you start us off, Chase?
Um, the thing that I will say, to keep it blunt, because this is another fight, not much happened. Not much was going on, not much that was good. Montel Jackson doing his normal Montel Jackson thing, gets a knockdown in the first, whatever it is, cool beans, great, love to see it. Long story short, the thing that I will say, Honey Barcelos did not win this fight, in my opinion, but I am very grateful he did by judge's account because Montel Jackson can get the hell out of here. I am not a fan of this dude's game, not one bit. You know, maybe at a time where I didn't understand what it meant to be a skilled mixed martial artist. I could love the guy who would sit there with the chamber and then he's ready to unload that one powerful. It's like the game's up. The trick when you're in the ranked competition, I'm done seeing that. I'm done seeing you just circle around and just wait for that one shot. And granted, Montel Jackson has that ability to knock people down. He's got like the most in the division, third most, something like that. But like knocking people down means they fucking get up, Like can you actually finish the fight? Honey Barcelos should have been finished in this fight. And that's just to say, to the point, Montel Jackson just ain't that guy in my opinion. And he serves to himself to be the boring fighter that he is, that he didn't go push for the finish here. This is one of the bigger opportunities that you have. Figueiredo was definitely a step up, but you lost split decision because you didn't do anything. Now here you go. You try to ride a whole fight off of one knockdown in the first round, and then you do nothing for the rest of the fight. Montel Jackson, I think you won the fight, sadly, but for my sake and for hopefully your career's sake, this is going to be the wake up call. Finally, that even if I win convincingly, they could still fuck me over. I don't I don't take pride saying it, but Hani Barcelos finally getting ranked after a performance like this is unfortunate because people are going to discredit the actual work that he did. They won't talk about how he beat the 12th ranked guy, beat his ass 30-27. You know why they won't talk about it? It's because a performance like this, where he arguably did not win. But the fact is, he shouldn't have even been in this fight, is because he beat the 12th ranked guy 2 fights ago. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, no, all tracks. I mean, after rewatch, because I also thought that Jackson won this fight upon the first watch. After the rewatch, I mean, you have to give Jackson the first round, right? He got the knockdown in the first round. That's his round, regardless. So if it was 1-1 going into the third, then I do think that Barcelos did enough in that third round to win this fight. But that being said, this was not like the standout performance for Barcelos that should really piggybacking exactly off of what you just said. This is not like a performance that's like, okay, this is the ranked fight now. Like it really should have been Peyton Talbot, right? I mean, that should
Yeah.
be the fight that did that, but he did not get it off of that, and now this is the fight. So it's like this was kind of a wonky one in a lot of ways. I mean, there were some interesting moments here. There was a nice slam by Barcelos when Jackson was going for a triangle attempt. That looked good. There was the whole weirdness with the shorts grabbing. That was an interesting element to this.
You missed the main one. So the shorts grab thing was interesting. So they get up from the ground. Montel Jackson is, headed towards the cage. Honey Barcelos has got his whole hand on the shorts, and he's like following him with it, like a leash kind of deal. And then when they get to the cage, then we go for like the single legs and stuff. And that's when they start talking about the grabbing. And I'm like, yo, it was moments ago. It's not now. He's not. What is he doing with the shorts grab when they're literally thigh to thigh? Like, who gives a shit right here? Moments ago, yeah, that was definitely valid. Honey Barcelos, if you want to call it a veteran move, call it whatever you want it. He got away with it. That's when it actually mattered, is when he led with him like a leash up against the cage. Who gives a fuck if he's grabbing your shorts, brother? Get away from the fucking. How about you circle out so we can see if he's yanking on you or not?
Yeah, I mean, illegal is illegal. I can
I hear you.
understand the complaint, but I do. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're talking about there.
I don't understand the complaint, brother. Stop fucking complaining to the referee and fight. You're boring. Like, how about you get some shit done? Like,
Well, and
the
that
people who are complaining to the ref are often the people who are
Right. No,
Damn.
and yeah, and I'll go with you on that for sure. I mean, and that's the thing too, is it's like Honey Barcelos is not exactly like some master striker. Montel Jackson is supposed to be like some high level striker, and again, you're exactly right in saying he's a dude that really just wants to load up and wait for that one cannon shot. You have an active guy in Hani Barcelos. Even if he's an older guy, he still moves really well. He's fast. He's going to be on your ass as far as the grappling goes, and the wrestling is going to be on your back if he can get it. So like you have to be more active than that. You have to be overcoming that. Now I will say though, Barcelos left himself open at times. There was one time in the second round where Barcelos goes face first into a knee. I mean, like things like that are the reasons why it's unfortunate that this becomes the fight that gets you the rank, because that's the stuff that'll get you the discrediting that you talked about there. But I thought that there was enough done. Solid striking for Jackson in the third, but not enough sustained output. So it's like Barcelos ends up with the control time. He's able to, make that work for him. I think there was enough done on Barcelos' side to eke this victory out, but that should not be what gets you into the rankings, is an eked out victory, and that's what's unfortunate here.
If you believe upon rewatch that Hani Barcelos got this one, I personally, I've always said, if you are somebody who lands third, like the number can be anything, but if it sounds low as shit, if you land 33 strikes total in a mixed martial arts bout, I don't know, brother. That don't sound like you did
Well,
much
but
much
I
of
mean,
anything.
we're talking about 7 minutes and 45 seconds of control time.
Yeah, but like, what are you doing with the control time though? Is like the thing. I mean, he
Yeah.
got two submission attempts. I agree. But in 2 submission attempts, Honey Barcelos, you're some black belt, yeah?
Well, that's also something I did want to mention. All 3 rounds of this fight ended with Hani Barcelos in a submission position. But you got to get to those quicker, my guy. I mean,
Mhm.
like just if flat out point blank period, every round is ending with you possibly being able to get yourself to the point of maybe getting this. No, 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 none of that. Cut that bullshit out when it comes to that element of things, if that is your game. Now, granted, there's a lot going on in the fight and Jackson was doing his thing, but if that is what you are eventually leading up to, you got to make it more convincing than that earlier. Like you have to be getting into that submission position well before the horn, especially now when we're talking about horns getting sounded early.
True, absolutely. Yeah, once they saw that backstage, you should have realized, man, you cannot fuck around with these guys. But Hani Barcelos, no, I agree with you. He's got to work to these positions earlier, and I'm a little upset because I was thinking Hani Barcelos sub is very live for somebody who's probably a black belt. I don't know. I can't swear to it, but Montel Jackson is just a basic one-dimensional striker. What the fuck does he know about grappling, submission, defense, bro? Get him down and choke him out. Like, what the hell are we talking about here? I feel like a lot of people don't have the confidence in their grappling. It's like, what the fuck did you spend all the time getting the credentials for if you're not willing to use it when it's necessary? Now, granted, a lot of people overuse and they're overconfident in their grappling. There's definitely a sweet spot to it, but Honey Barcelos, you've been doing this long enough. You could have won this fight and made it look like you were making light work of somebody who didn't deserve to be in the rankings. Now it looks like, well, this dude's barely better than Montel Jackson. It's like it's unfortunate the way that because the the revisionists, they will neglect that he beat Peyton Talbot, and they will talk about how look at him now and Peyton Talbot's he's better now and Ronnie Barcelos is on the decline. It's like the point is when right was right, Honey Barcelos did not get what he was deserves, and that's the ranked opponent. He did not get his opportunity to start climbing the ranks once again. But now we can maybe see something, but I don't know. This was unfortunate because Montel Jackson's just not that good.
Yeah, split decision win for Barcelos really tells the tale of this fight, because for that exact reason, I mean, obviously one person thought that it was close enough for Jackson with the striking and the damage to take it. Other two judged it really off of the control, because that almost 8 minutes of control time really was the defining factor of Barcelos's, of his game plan. He had a little bit of striking, but it was really a lot of active control that was getting him the rounds. I said that, it's like Montel won it on damage and Barcelos won it by rounds. And that's like
Yes.
not a great way to, it's not a great way to enter the ranks. So unfortunate in that regard, but if you didn't like Montel Jackson, then he's out of the ranks, at least for now.
True.
So, all right. Well, that's that one then. Let's move on to this one here. This is Davy Grant versus Adrian Luna Martinetti. Now, I know that you have some interesting thoughts about Martinetti. I think that I'm going to differ on a few of them. So once again, I will ask you, Chase, would you like to start this?
I would love to, because again, you guys gotta take into account that this is a hard debut. You know, you look at Jai Herbert, another Englishman. That's a hard debut. Again, we go back to Neil Magny, hard debut.
They just to mention off that point, they seem to be doing that little slightly selectively, but more often selectively now. It seems like where they're giving these debuting fighters like really heavy tests. And you're right. I mean, Davy Grant and Jai Herbert, both very good examples of like really hard tests early. So like Valenzuela, granted, he didn't win on the Contender Series, so that's a little bit different. But like you can see the levels that they're bringing some of these fighters in at, and this is definitely a good example of that.
Yeah, so I thought this was a hard debut. Davy Grant is still a formidable opponent, and he's weathered. He's a very weathered veteran in this sport, and I'm a very big fan of Martinetti. You know, I was really hoping that when I saw him fight, that the image that I had in my mind of him, you know, from the fight that we saw, the greatest Contender Series fight of all time, whatever you want to say, all the skills that I feel like I saw and was able to say that this is a guy that fits the bill to put on the greatest fight of all time. You know, I was hoping that that didn't, disappear in my mind. After this fight, I would still love to tell you that I am very confident in Martinetti's ability to be very good in this sport, in this organization. That is because Davy Grant, while he is a counter striker, he plays on the back foot. He is also just very good at decision making. You know, the knee that Charles Jourdain landed, you know, hats off to him. It worked. This fight here, Davy Grant did have to show off his chin, and Martinetti does not necessarily carry the pack a punch when it comes to his hands, of course. But he's a very skillful striker in other ways. He mixes in a lot of different methods and techniques. He's not a boxer. He's not a kickboxer. He does literally everything on the feet, and I think that's just very important. Davy Grant, he was probably the best opponent that you could get to fight a style against Martinetti in this case, because Martinetti, I made this comparison in the Discord. He reminds me a lot of Mateusz Rebecki. That when you watch them fight, high guard, they walk forward, they are feint heavy, they never stop. You could throw the fucking sink at them and they're going to continue walking. They also don't check leg kicks. Now Martinetti eventually had to switch stances, but some people, and we've talked about this before, some people have never seen leg kicks before in their life. Harry Hardwick, apparently that was the case when he got TKO'd, but some people also just do not get affected by leg kicks as easily as others. Some people just continue to walk through it, a stance switch for 2 minutes, and then they go right back to it. You know, an opponent like this is very hard to navigate. And Davy Grant is probably the best example of somebody who could navigate this fight, because you have to fight on a lot of instinct when it comes to somebody like this. They don't give you the opportunity to set your feet. They don't give you an opportunity to choose what you want to do. You have to just have an option. When they come forward and he throws punches or, you know, tries to grab you, you got to have just the answer to bing bang and then get out. And I think Davy Grant had a perfect game plan. And I think the performance was almost the best that I've ever seen from this dude. I'm not even going to lie to you. This was stellar.
Oh yeah.
But I think, again, it takes two to tango. Martinetti, being the savage that he is, this dude is making me a really big fan because one, he showed a chin. He showed his willingness to continue fighting. I mean, guys, think about it. 17-1. How many times do you think of those bouts that his legs were kicked out from under him and he had trouble walking? I could probably say it was low. You know, these things don't happen like this. You know, Davy Grant had that game plan. You know, as soon as the fight started, the first shot that he landed was just this mean ass low kick. You know, he was going to disable him through the fight. You know, and I'm not saying this to, to discredit any of Martinetti's opponents, but like, it's things like that that you don't see until you get to the UFC. Somebody who will dedicate the game to just butchering your legs, because we're going to find out if you can stand after a round or two of it. Look, again, back to Harry Hardwick. Just kick him in the leg 50 fucking times. You know, if he's not going to check it, I mean, that's just how it goes. But Martinetti, able to walk through all of this, able to still keep a pace that is crazy, mixing up everything throughout 3 rounds, showing off he's got a chin himself, Latino chin. He may not look it, you know, he's very unassuming, But this guy, I'm telling you, I really love this dude's game. He even the takedowns too. He shot for an early takedown against Davy Grant. He didn't get it. He shot for another one, blah, 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 blah. But in the third round, right at the end, he gets a takedown. He drops down, gets Davy Grant on his butt. Davy Grant gets up and they're in like the clinch wrestling. And then he hits this slick trip on him. And it's like things like this, like even towards the end of the round, even towards the end of the fight, he's one trying to secure points. Yes, sure. Maybe not like necessarily like, oh, you want to be the shoot the takedown at the end of the round kind of guy, but he was doing unique things that like, okay, he doesn't just have a double leg, he's got, judo trips, he's got waistline, the things that Martinetti is possessing, even in a performance that he's losing against somebody who's a hard fight to navigate. This dude is really one of my this is my guy right here. I like Luna
Well, you can
Martinetti, man.
you can certainly tell that. I mean, that was quite the quite the breakdown there, and a lot of positive praise. So a lot of it tracks. But one of the things that you mentioned there, and I hate to be the negative side of this, and I'm really not trying to be overly negative, but I do want to at least bring up a couple of the points. I said that. I agree. Martinetti is relentless. He is definitely tenacious. He is a tough dude who can take a punch. That's absolutely true. I said Rombechki plus speed, which is a really good combination to have. However, the problem is that he A takes a lot of those punches, and B, the power in the hands. This was a fight between two guys with nice striking, but no power between them. So it was going to be a volume striking affair between both of these guys. And Davy Grant is really, really good in that type of fight because he is still a very quality boxer. As you said, this was possibly one of the best fights we've ever seen out of Davy Grant because this is the exact type of fight that he should have been in. I mean, this is him at his peak when it comes to just throwing hands, kicks, going this and that. All of that tracks to exactly what his strong suit is. The footwork, movement, combinations, and shot placement, all on display for Davy, all tremendous. Martinetti doing a great job in those departments as well. But that's where we end up in this kind of like stalemate situation where it's just the two of them. I class this as a high speed chess match between these two, just angling shots at each other. You know what I mean? It was like one of those kinds of things. And that's not a knock. It was very impressive to watch. I really enjoyed this fight. I thought it was a very fun fight to watch, but the power is really the problem. I said, old man Davy Grant is still fast and accurate, but this is more of the patented British pillow boxing, unfortunately. And I hate to say that because it's him, Nathaniel Wood. I mean, like Sam Patterson can get knockouts, but then, sometimes we don't see him doing that. It's like there just seems to be a little bit of a power problem with some of these British fighters, and it's a lot of them who are boxers as well. It's like you'd think that if they were going to be striking as much as they do, that they would have the power to back that up, but it's really just a lot of volume at times, and that's a lot of what we saw here. So Martinetti did navigate this fight pretty well. I mean, he had some the nice spinning kick, the spinning side kick in the first round. I thought that looked good. He sort of looked a little uncomfortable in this fight, so I want to believe that maybe overall, like later on, he'll like find his rhythm because I don't think he like truly found his rhythm in this fight, even though he held his own very, very well. But he did a lot of pressuring, but not a lot of throwing in multiples to overwhelm Grant. So it was pressure with little gain, and then you pair that with the lack of power, you start to see where the problems lie. So I'm not saying that I don't like this guy. I think that there's formative elements of a fighter who can do a lot more and a lot better over time, but the power needs to be there. I don't know how you develop it necessarily, if you're weight training more or whatever it needs to happen to get the power in the hands. But if you're going to fight the way that he fights and you don't have that power to back it up, you end up like a Mateusz Rombechki. You take a lot of damage with not a lot to show for it.
I actually, and this is just me personally, just giving an opinion. I think it's the developmentally the way that he throws his punches. I just he doesn't have like a there's no pop to it really.
Right.
He's just like he's throwing meaty paws out there. He's trying to get his hands on you, and fair play to him. Again, when it comes to the record, I think it's very important to know. Again, 17-1 coming into this. He lost his third bout in his career, and he hasn't lost since. For him to go out here, put on a performance, and hand raised high. A lot of people. There's people who take their fifth fucking loss in the main event, Vinicius Oliveira, and they don't know how to fucking act. This is a person lost with class, walked out at 17-2, still a
He,
great
he
record.
he was surprised though. He was
I
very surprised by this outcome.
I and I don't blame him for it. Again, he hasn't lost in 15 fights or whatever
Sure.
it is.
Yeah.
So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it wasn't that off, I mean, it wasn't like he was a 30-26 and he's
No,
over
no, no.
here
I
raising
agree with that. Yeah.
So I give him props, you got to have some confidence, always have your head, hand raised higher, whatever you want to say. But him losing, he's only going to learn from it, and we'll see what he's going to do to get better because this guy's good.
Yeah, I mean, technique fundamentals all definitely there. And again, going up, like you said, Davy Grant, it's like they really, the matchmaking couldn't have been worse for him in this fight when it came to that, because Davy Grant doing all of those same things at such a high clip and with so much experience to back that up, sadly a foregone conclusion based on those elements, I think. So it's like, he does have those, the great formative basis. Power needs to be there, man. And I want to see it from him because, like, really, I think that if you go back to Vologdin and now him, the fight that the two of them had does inform both of their debuts in the organization. And like, you can see why they had such a great fight together, but now they need to be able to replicate that against different higher level opponents, all of those elements here. Both very hard debut fights for those guys, and now you're seeing like the other side of it. So I think that both of them need to learn from that, need to improve those holes in the game, shore those up. There are definitely better fighters out of both of them in the future. Hopefully, they will achieve that.
100%.
All right, but I did like this fight. I do want to, have that as the final note of all of this. This was a really enjoyable fight, and very happy to see Davy Grant able to display all of what he is good at.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, this was another kind of fight like that to an extent, I would say. I enjoyed this fight a lot. I think people have mixed feelings about it, though. This is Rafa Garcia versus Alexander Hernandez. I thought that this was a very quality performance from Rafa. His striking was on point, and he is a little tank of a man. So when he pressures, like, you have to really have a definitive striking game plan that is going to A, get past the guard, and B, be very impactful to stun him or at least get him off of his rhythm. You let Rafa Garcia get into his rhythm consistently, which is what he did in this fight. If you recall, coming out of the second round into the third, like, the cut man was still trying to to fix him up, and he was like, "Put me back in, coach. I'm ready to go." He was really in the flow state in this fight. I thought through a lot of it. And sadly, a lot of that comes from Hernandez. I feel not getting himself into the rhythm he needed to be into early in this fight to do all of what I'm talking about. But you let Rafa have that kind of fight, and this dude will really put the pressure on. I mean, he was in his face for all of this fight. Like, there was not a time where he let Hernandez have any room. He didn't have any spatial problems where it was like, letting off the gas. He was on top of this dude for so much of this fight. And I actually almost felt bad for Hernandez's corner, because I thought his corner was doing some pretty good cornering, giving him like the advice that made sense. It was just that Hernandez couldn't put the pieces together because of how much pressure was just in his face at all times. So I thought that, this was a performance to me that really spoke to a better version of Rafa Garcia that I don't think that I had necessarily clocked before.
Yo, this, gosh, this fight here, I disagree with you. I
Uh
don't
oh.
think this was a very good fight. I thought it was fine. It was serviceable for something that was on the card with all the other decisions that we had. But I think what's key to note is that when I first came around, a lot of people were talking about Alexander Hernandez. Anytime he would come around, there was people that had doubt because he was supposed to be the guy. I'm pretty sure I'd seen people say that he was going to beat Islam. I don't know. Listen, I
Yikes.
didn't believe it because the performances that I had seen have not, been that bad. He hasn't shown me that he was, a bust kind of deal. But when I see a performance like this, I don't feel bad, and I don't feel anything. I just realize, like, oh, that's what they meant. Like, oh, he just potentially just doesn't show up to a fight. I feel like Alexander Hernandez gave me the impression of somebody who, if the fight was brought to him, he'd give it back. But in this one right here, I truly feel like Rafa Garcia just pushed him around the entirety of this fight. There wasn't much of anything that Hernandez offered back. I mean, he got he got busted up pretty good, and he just kept eating the shots on the outside. I I really just hated to see him like this, but no, great performance from Rafa Garcia. I just it just sucks that, again, two people make a fight. I didn't think Hernandez brought the fight that I feel like bro, yeah, this dude will stand and trade with Chase Hooper. But then when fucking Rafa Garcia's in there, he's all on the outside
Well,
skirting away.
it, for the first two rounds, I think that he did finally start to figure it out a little bit in the third round, but it was just too little too late by that point. But again, I think that really, like, that's why I'm giving so much praise to Rafa Garcia here. I mean, I think that he is who made it that way. Like, yeah, you're exactly right. It does take two to tango when it comes to this fighting shit. But like at the same time, if you are not able to effectively get through the guard, if you're not able to effectively find the shots, where is that coming from? You know what I mean? Now, like a lot of times you could say, oh, other fighters are doing things differently. But like, if this is the game plan that is going to work for Rafa Garcia and he does that, then I mean, I think that's worth the merit, I mean, like he found the strategy that was neutralizing what Hernandez does best. So hats off to him. I mean, again, I don't necessarily think that I've seen a performance like this from Rafa Garcia that made me like say, man, that is actually like legitimately impressive that I hadn't like picked up on before. But this is where I saw a person who like had a solid game plan. Again, also the build really lends itself to this fight because they were very evenly matched in that way. So if you're going to put your head behind the guard and just start spamming the shots where you can get them and your opponent doesn't have an answer for that, I mean, hats off to you. I think that that's worth the praise, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I want to go ahead and give Rafa Garcia the credit where it's due. I still just wish that Hernandez didn't make me realize that yeah, people have been around, History unfortunately can repeat itself. Not always, but in this case, I mean, it's not like Rafa Garcia is the worst fighter ever. It's not like this is a Kurt Holloway that he lost to or something like that. But this this ain't a guy that you had to even think about was on your radar. I don't know if you were overlooking the possibility that it can beat you or it just wasn't your night, but this doesn't just set you back. I mean, it sets you right back where you were. Like, and that's the worst part. It's like, if you're at rock bottom, okay, there's only up from here. But like, no, you just get set back a few steps where you literally just made your way out of. You got two decision wins. Cool, people were thinking you're decent, and then you get two finish wins. Okay, now we're talking. Now you're looking good, and then you drop to Rafa Garcia, and it's like now we're back to you need two finish wins, brother. Like
Well,
so.
you're exactly right about that. I definitely agree with you on that when it comes to the trajectory. And also, if we go back to the history, which we don't need to get into all of, but of course, of course, Hernandez is a guy after the whole thing with Cowboy Cerrone and all of the shit he was talking and everything like that. He set himself up for a downfall and then had a very satisfying downfall to a lot of people because of that. So you're right. Building yourself back up from that, it takes a lot to overcome that, and to have gotten to that position here and then have this fight be the thing that could basically stalemate you to a certain extent, have you kind of idling when you were on a good forward trajectory. That 100% I agree with entirely.
Yeah. No, yeah, but the last thing that you need to know is that Rafa Garcia had a really good performance here. This was clean, cut, executed. Cub Swanson in his corner. I think if Rafa Garcia has potential to be a ranked opponent towards the ladder of the division, of course, if he wants to do that by the end of this year, he could certainly do it if he's active enough. I would just like to see who they're going to give him next, of course.
Yeah, and really that's also the takeaway from me is that I think my ultimate takeaway here, I've said it a couple of times, but I'll say it again, is that I don't think that I had picked up on the quality of Rafa Garcia's striking until now in a major way. You know what I mean? Like I knew that he was a tough guy. I knew that he was a formidable opponent to an extent, but not somebody that I was really like had on the radar kind of thing. This I would say puts him on the radar a little bit more to me. Hernandez was on a pretty good upward trajectory. He stops that. He takes over that slot to a minor extent. As you said, Cub Swanson product. That also helps in my mind a little bit, at least to remember. Really, this was something that I think, should at least give you the signal of like, yeah, maybe I will take this guy a little bit more seriously.
100%. I like it.
All right, good deal. Let's get into the co-main event here. This is Norma Dumont versus Jocelyn Edwards. Of course, this fight, we talked a lot about Jocelyn Edwards and her improvements. The things that she did early on in her career that had me thinking one way, and then over the course of her career, how she changed my mind. I think that based on that, this was sound navigation of a fight, but this was not a great fight overall because there just was not enough happening on either side. I think that for the few instances where there was some explosiveness, it was on Jocelyn's side. So good deal, especially upon rewatch. Like I clocked a lot more of like the actual X's and O's of everything. So the decision does stand correct as far as all of that goes. But I mean, the commentary is talking about Norma Dumont thriving in point fights, except she wasn't outpointing in this one. I think that's why this fight was a little dissatisfying to me.
This one is one of those big long rounds. I don't put any blame on Jocelyn here. I thought she fought the exact fight she needed to win the fight. I mean, with Norma Dumont, she's a counter striker. She's on the outside, so you have to go bring the fight to her. I thought Jocelyn Edwards did a great job of trying to engage as much as she can. There was a point, I believe, it was at the end of the first round, where Norma Dumont goes to her coach or whatever, and she's like, I can't keep trading with her. She's gonna like knock me out or something. She says something like that. Like she's hurting me with her punches. She said something about the power. And it unfortunately led to her not engaging enough. She just did not want to take the chance. She was on a decent win streak even before the fight. They were saying she's 7-0 in the Apex, 6-1 as a UFC favorite. I mean, she has been doing this for a long time. And now Jocelyn Edwards put her in the position where she said, I'm not going to risk that. I'm just going to continue to stay out here and I'm going to play my game. And unfortunately, thankfully, she got what she deserved, where she thought she was winning the fight. Hand raised,
Oh
smile,
yeah, that was something. Yeah, I saw the
and nothing.
yeah, I saw the tweet that you had posted about, that the performance of the night goes to Norma Dumont with her, her what? Excuse me, I didn't win this fight. It's like, yeah, no, you did not win this fight. This should have been something that you recognized in how you performed throughout all of this. I said that maybe based on minimal striking, you can give Norma the second round, perhaps, but that's a big perhaps. And third round was also rather inactive on Norma's side. She didn't do much with the top control in the first round either. Where was the win to you? You know what I mean? It was one of those kinds of things. Is the win in the room with us now? Like, I don't know where she was getting this impression that any of the instances that she had of control or of advantage were enough to actually swing this fight. Edwards, on the other hand, beginning of the fight, I thought she did a great job of striking her way into the clinch. There was she had that nice little flurry that got her into range. That's something that I can say there's a point. You know what I mean? There's a couple of like instances like that. The switch kick for Edwards in the second round, maybe not super impactful, but at least it's something. If you don't do anything and your opponent does something, the opponent wins.
True.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I mean, 29-28 seems pretty correct to me upon rewatch.
Yeah, 30-27 is a little bit of a reach, but I'm not mad at it because Norma Dumont did nothing. She didn't take the fight serious enough.
Is that what you think it is? You think that she was underestimating?
No, not that. Not necessarily in seriously is the bad way to say it, of course, but I don't think she was willing enough to understand that if I'm trying to think. It's not that she's not underestimating her. I think she was just worried that if I lose to her, it's going to be by finish. She's finished the last four women, and I'm not going to take that risk, and I'm going to do what I do best because it's beaten everybody else. And the fact that it didn't beat Jocelyn is a very good sign because hopefully she understands that if I would have just been a little, and it actually comes down to her style, the way that she leans back with her chin up. I mean, yeah, you're gonna get clipped. I mean, I understand why you are not wanting to take the risk because inevitably your style is going to lend to you having openings where they're going to hit you. I just think if you wanted to win the fight, you had to be able to capitalize on that. You got to figure out the way to win. I'm not the one to tell you to do it, but if you want the win, you have to figure out how to do it. And if you want to be the person that sits there and is happy when the judges call the other person's name, continue to do this.
Yeah, I mean, really, it does come down to that. It's about as simple as that. I mean, minimal striking and laying on top of your opponent does not win the fight, especially when your opponent is doing more than that.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean that's really about as classically grade school elementary as it can get. Way too low on the output, not doing enough. Edwards wins this fight. I mean, and there's really not like any kind of like overly dramatic things to talk about with this one either. This is similar to the McConaughey fight that we talked about earlier. I mean, like there's not something that I would like say is like, oh, this is the main takeaway of this fight. I mean, I guess the takeaway is that Jocelyn Edwards enters a higher ranking now. She's going to be decently ranked in bantamweight, which needs more actual finishers and a better crop of talent in women's bantamweight. So there's your takeaway in the big picture, but in the micro level here, I mean, like it sure it was a fight. I mean, the co-main event, was it worth it that? I don't yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But, shout out to Jocelyn. I appreciate her a lot. Let me just
Yeah.
say it that way.
And I will say this, because of me becoming a believer, I put a small little straight bet on her to win this fight, and I cashed that ticket. So I appreciate you making a believer out of me, because that got me a little bit of extra cash.
That's what I love to hear. Shout out Jocelyn Edwards, man. Shout out Panama.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There you go. Underrepresented country in the sport, having somebody doing big things for them. I appreciate that too.
Yeah.
All right, well, that takes us to the main event of the evening. Oh, buddy, this is Aljamain Sterling versus Youssef Zalal. Let me start off by saying something, Chase, because I was thinking about this a good amount after watching this fight. And of course, I mentioned that I do the Sunday night Muay Thai. So I was on stream and people were asking me about this fight. What I want to say is that this sport sometimes is surprising to me, in the sense that there are people who become elite in this sport and can really hold on to that elite level throughout a number of different twists and turns in their career. And then when you think that the wave is like resetting itself, that the new role is about to start happening, you see some guys who are really like starting to give you the impression that maybe the changing of the guard is happening, or that it could be something that could be like this person might be the next one to usher in the new era. It just sometimes goes back to a very basic concept of elite is elite for a reason. And whether you like or dislike Aljamain Sterling, because there's a long storied history of why you might feel how you feel about him, I don't think it is deniable that this guy has elite qualities that are, that are overwhelming to someone who is maybe not of the ready for the test, maybe not at the mental readiness that you need to encounter it. Because what I saw in this fight was a Youssef Zalal who looked like a deer in the headlights for a lot of this, especially after round one. There were a lot of instances where he looked very timid. He looked very nervous about getting taken down. He looked very nervous about standing and trading, because he knew that the level change was coming. He was very in his own head. And that is a self-fulfilling prophecy in this sport. When you are that worried about getting taken down, you are probably going to get taken down. Or you're going to do nothing and maybe save face by not, but that was not the case here. So I say all of that to say Aljamain Sterling retains a lot of the greatness that he once had. I think that he still has, and maybe that people might have been doubting over time. And that's on them, certainly on me for having that potentially as the mindset, and then also for putting a little bit more stock in Youssef Zalal than maybe was necessary based on the credentials that he had coming into this fight.
This one, not much to say. Aljamain dominated. Yusuf Zalal, I never was the biggest on you. So me picking you and losing out, I mean that's fine by me. I'm cool with it, dude. You just proved me right. And the most unfortunate thing that I think about this fight is not the fight itself. It's not that you shit the bed in front of, the apex. It's not that you got dominated. 50-45 is what I fucking called it, by the way. But whatever, if they want to give him a round, sure. But the thing that makes me so mad, and this is how I know that I was right all along, Yusuf Zalal is never going to be anything. Post-fight speech wraps up with Aljamain Sterling. He gets to head off and celebrate. They pull up to Yusuf Zalal with the biggest fucking smile on his face. He is in the happiest mood of his life after he just got dominated in the biggest opportunity of it. Like, I go back to Whaley and Shevchenko. It was different. Whaley was happy. She was just happy to be there. She faced the greatest of all time. It just didn't go her way. She was reaching for greatness. It didn't go her way. Yusuf Zalal. This is a fucking bantamweight, brother.
He literally had the nerve to say, no one can hold me down. No one could hold me. But brother, you got held down for 4 out of 5 rounds at best. And even in that 5th round, that, it was the 3rd round that he won. I thought even in that round, you got the position based on the initiation from Aljo. No one can hold you down. Someone did hold you down for 25 minutes.
Now it just makes me mad, bro. You should be mad at yourself. You have a fight like that, you have a performance like that, you should be mad at yourself. This was your ticket to get a title shot. Brother, you are already in your second stint in the UFC. Now you're happy. You're happy you just got dominated. I know you're not happy you got dominated, but the fact that you could even muster up a smile after that shows me you're not taking the shit as serious as other people. There's other people out there who, if they lost the fight, they go sit in the woods for 3 fucking months or whatever happens. They go sit in darkness. You know what you do? Have a great fucking time. Where's your cigar? You had a participation. You were here. Like
Yeah, I mean, I'm not putting as much stock in that specifically. I can, fair that you feel that way. I'm not saying that you're wrong for highlighting it.
all that I'm saying is people will, and I agree, it's an understandable point of view to say I'm not going to put stock into it. But when he doesn't amount to anything, and it's because he doesn't take the shit serious, I mean, all that I can say is that the signs were here, Like,
Well,
how
I mean,
many times are you going to lose and be happy,
that's
before you actually do
Oh,
something about it?
right, and what I would say though is that it's like, a half glass full kind of guy. I was in a fight with an elite grappler and, elite wrestler, a guy
The
who
one that I fucking overlooked all week that I said I'm gonna go fight Volkanovski next. I can't wait for Volkanovski. I got all the receipts on this
well,
guy.
yeah, that's unfortunate. That's definitely not cool that he was looking past Aljo. To think that you should have been looking past Aljo is definitely a miscalculation, an obvious miscalculation. You should have seen that from a mile away. But as far as just being like, dude who's like, "Oh, I'll get better off of it." Again, it's like it's hard to say after seeing what we saw in this for sure. I will grant you that I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying here.
Bro was about to quit in the fourth round from
Well, we can
fucking
talk about that. Yeah, no, so yeah, have that in the notes for sure. Fourth round, Zalal looked like he was tapping. Perhaps he wasn't, but it was understandable as to why you would think that he might have been because he was getting his head pounded away at like a side of beef. Aljamain Sterling, the striker in this fight, by the way. I mean, a lot of striking on display for Aljamain Sterling again because Zalal did not initiate anything in this fight. That's my biggest note. Again, you talk about the celebration or lack thereof, or however, the after the fight stuff. In the fight itself, one thing that I guess I will note here and why it was so apparent to me, on one of my parlays, I've switched to doing prop bets a little bit more because I think that there's better potential for like certain things to happen when the judges are just going to do whatever the hell they want. So I was like, Zalal over on the strikes seems correct to me. Zalal being having more significant strikes. Like, Aljo is going to do all the wrestling. He might win the fight off of that, but the strikes will be there for Zalal. This dude almost looked like he was intentionally not striking at times. There were times where Aljo was underneath him, select instances of it, where they were in exchanges, obviously. It wasn't like he was dominating a lot of positions, but maybe in that third round, he had a couple of times where he was under him, not a single strike thrown. Aljo, on the other hand, gets his back, triangles him up, bang, 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 bang on the side of the head. He's striking at range. He's striking close up. Aljamain Sterling, the striker in this fight, it was bizarre to see it. Not bizarre that Aljo couldn't do that. Of course he could do that. He's a mixed martial artist. Of course he could do that. It was bizarre that it was happening based on the dynamics of this fight specifically. Aljo had free reign. You give a former champion like that this much leeway to do whatever they want. This is what they do, whatever the fuck they want. I'm surprised that he didn't have this performance against Brian Ortega with how he was fighting, but I digress. Either way, this fight right here is what we got. And Zalal just really not navigating this fight in any kind of like go get it attitude. It was very apparent. Like what you're saying about after the fight was apparent in the fight. I mean, there was one instance as well. Zalal takes the up kick, acknowledges it, and then takes another up kick. He basically plants his face right into the second up kick. It's like, what are you getting at in this fight is what I was like thinking a lot of the time. Like this is such a fundamentally poor navigation of this fight. It was really odd to see out of someone who had that many wins coming into it.
And I'm not gonna say that this dude's gonna lose every fight from here on out, but I do sleep well at night knowing that out of all the people that I could potentially see as a good fighter, as somebody that I see the spark in, Zalal was one of those people that It wasn't for me, guys. I'm not the one who's going to gloat about him dancing around and evading Calvin Cater for 3 rounds. I'm also not going to gloat about him getting a 12-second tap against Josh Emmett, who clearly got paid to fucking do that. Now, if we want to talk about that, we could talk about this fight too. I'd be happy as shit too if I just made the lifetime money off of this fucking bet that I just threw. I'm not saying that it is true, but pff, the last 2 performances, I don't know. We've seen scandalous before. I don't know what's happening here. 12 seconds, Josh Emmett. He's never looked like that. We thought Zalal was going to be the greatest fucking fighter of all time after this with the grappling experience that he had. But Aljamain Sterling comes in here and makes him look like light work. And then he's fucking happy about it after. Like, it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, no, I mean, whether that element of it tracks or not, hard to say. Uh, I can definitely not say anything, but this was an absolute one-sided, complete drubbing. I mean, this was such a blowout for Aljamain Sterling. I did give him the third round to Zalal. I thought that, he got the guillotine for a second there. The attempt looked like it was decent, which I was like, in the moment, I'm like, that would have been absolutely insane to think that Zalal was going to guillotine Aljamain Sterling. But again, the initiation of what that was, why he was there, was coming off of work that Aljo was doing. So, chalk it up to that being the overall takeaway, is that even when Zalal did well for one time in this fight, it was off of Aljamain Sterling starting the sequence.
I'm just so grateful that he did not get the sub. I really am, because the fact that there would have been people out there who would have been talking about Yusuf Zalal, that he's that guy, man. He's that guy. And I would have been able to show you 2 full rounds previously of Aljamain Sterling doing whatever the fuck he wanted to this guy. Thankfully, the sub didn't occur, because now we got 5 rounds of it. But the fact that he almost potentially got that sub, shout out, credit to him. But I thought you were the grappler, brother. This is how you were supposed to combat Aljamain Sterling. Back in the day, people used to tell me, "Oh, if Aljo gets a hold of Sean O'Malley, he's got to worry about the grappling." Is this true now, brother? How many times do people have this grappling that I'm so fearful of? But when you have a guy in your fucking choke, he's just not there anymore. Like,
Yeah. No, absolutely. I classed this very similarly to the way that I classed Fluffy Hernandez, who was in attendance at this event, actually. So kind of ironic, I suppose. But the same way I felt about Fluffy losing to Sean Strickland is exactly how I feel about this. I am certainly a person who welcomes new and interesting developments in this sport, new fighters becoming the new elites that are going to take divisions into their next era. And now twice in the same year, if I'm not mistaken, that was this year, right? Fluffy and
yes,
Strickland. Yeah, so twice in the same year, two fighters that I was really thinking could be on that next wave have let me down in spectacular fashion. So, I'll take the L. I'll take it on, take it on the chin. I mean, I got to I have to acknowledge when it's not correct, and both of those fights really fall into the exact same category. So unfortunate here, but Aljamain Sterling remains someone formidable. So I guess what I will end this discussion with, or at least pause it to you as the final question: Aljamain Sterling potentially for a title shot? Question mark.
I've been saying that for, ever since Lerona Mozart. I said that definitely should be the person, whoever wins should get the title shot, but the next person in line, depending on how the fight had gone. If Lerona Mozart were injured, or if there was some reason Mozart's probably just not going to fight for another fucking year, whatever the case may be. Aljo, the winner of Aljo and Salah at the time, that was going to be that makes sense for the person to get the belt next. It's decently ranked enough. If Aljo wins, he's a former champion. He's a wrestler. He's not the striker that Volk is, but the wrestling could be interesting. So it depends on if Mosvar is going to wait around, or, like, I don't really know. Unless we're going to get him in Abu Dhabi, I don't know if we're going to see Mosvar and Volk anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I've said that because Aljo lost to Movsar, I would like one more fight from him just to like ultra solidify it. And I think that Laura Murphy would be a good one for that I think that it's a pretty easy fight for Aljo based on what we've seen. I don't think that Larone's going to be able to hang with him when it comes to the grappling, so he should be able to make that his fight. After that, no questions asked. Yeah, I mean, whoever wins, if Mofsar is next in line and they're going to make that fight happen, one way or another, by hook or by crook, depending on how he decides he wants to roll out of bed and actually fight. If that's the case and he's going to get that title shot, give Aljo the loser of the title eliminator. He wins that. Give him the next shot.
I kind of like people who are saying Aljo and John Silva. I kind of like that one. That adds a stylistic clash there because, like you're saying with Lerone, Aljo can beat. He knows how to beat Lerone,
You're
but
gonna you're
John
gonna let
Silva.
you're gonna let John Silva aura farm his way into a potential title eliminator.
It's not a potential title eliminator at the time because you still have to see how the White House shapes up. If Diego Lopez wins again, we'll get the trilogy, guys.
Oh
Don't you
God,
know?
don't even say that. Do not say something wild like that.
But if Steve Garcia wins, I mean, we have a whole new
That
that's
tracks more.
John
Yeah.
Silva's nullified if Steve Garcia's in the top five.
Yeah, that tracks a lot more. So yeah, we will have to see about that. I agree with you on that point. But yeah, I mean, look, Aljo, he has the credentials from the other division. It makes sense. I'd say again, whatever fight you decide is the fight. I'd say one more fight and then title shot is likely.
True, fair. Hear you.
All right. Well, then I guess that takes us to the end of the card. That's UFC Fight Night, Sterling versus Zalal. Chase, after talking it all through, your final thoughts?
I was wrong. I had a fun time during this card, but after realizing there was only two finishes on this,
Yeah.
no reason I was kind of I guess I was delirious, guys. This was hard.
What I would say is that even yes, there was a lack of finishes on this card that is definitely very apparent. However, I did think that we had some really good standout performances, and I often say that, but like this one, I think really like is one that exemplifies that. Davy Grant, Rafa Garcia, Aljamain Sterling. I mean, the main card again. I thought the undercard, the prelims were not the best, but the main card I thought did deliver in a good way. A couple of good finishes on there. I'm sticking with my original assessment of being satisfied. Just being baseline satisfied.
Hell yeah, I appreciate that.
All right.
Do you want to go over the numbers?
I do want to go over the numbers. Please let me know.
All right, so out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 fights,
13.
I had gotten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 correct. And then out of, what was it? What did we say, 13?
Yes.
You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 correct. So the yearly total, when I saw this one, it is starting to look a little bad, thinker. 109 to 89.
I mean, that's still within, it's 20. That's 20. That's
It, it,
20 even.
it is 20, but it looks like it's a lot more. I'm not going to lie. 109, 89. It's like, maybe it's at 30. No, it's 20. Right?
It's 20. It's only 20. It's 20 even. And this is going to be the one. The problem, too, was that we picked the same a lot on this last one. And the ones that we didn't pick the same on were the ones that I got wrong. So, understandable. This will happen, but maybe this will be the one where we have vastly different opinions. It is UFC Perth that we're going to be talking about. This is actually a pretty decent card, so maybe this will be the one where everything changes for your boy. So let's get into it a little bit here. Of course, this is UFC Fight Night. Della Maddalena versus Prates. Jack Della Maddalena is going up against Carlos Prates. This is a very highly anticipated fight here, Chase. A lot of people are very excited about this because there are a lot of people who are very high on Jack Della Maddalena, I think. I think that there is a lot of a big fan base for this guy. Oh, you make a face like you don't think that that's the truth. There are riders for Jack Della, brother. I see them all the time. People coming into the chat talking about Jack Della being the man. A lot of them maybe from that region of the world, perhaps. Could be a little bit of bias there, maybe, but I do know that this is a dude that a lot of people have been thinking is that guy for a while, even through losses, even through performances that I didn't think made him seem like he was that guy. He's going up against Carlos Prates, who potentially could be that guy. So that all being said, what do you think?
I do believe, I 100% believe that JDM is going to give a better matchup than a lot of people are going to give him credit for. Now, I don't know about these JDM stands that you're talking about. I personally only know of the Carlos Prates stands, and I know this dude's got a big fan base, and they think he's going to run right through JDM. I personally don't think that. This is a guy, Carlos Prates, who arguably was almost going to beat Ian Gary late in the fight too, not just early, not
Fifth
just
round,
on.
yeah.
It was almost going to be a late finish for Carlos Prates. So I have no questions if he can do it for the amount of time that we're going to have in this fight. I think him training, down in Brazil, of course, with the fighting nerds, he's got grappling that we haven't seen yet, but the other ones look like they're pretty formidable on when it comes to rolling. I'm going to go ahead and say Prates is good enough. Obviously, we saw a little bit of it in the Gary fight, but with JDM, it's going to be a stand-up fight. You cannot deny what you're going to see here. Carlos Prates and JDM are going to strike with each other, but JDM, he's real tough, guys. I think he's a lot tougher than people were expecting. And not to say that Carlos Prates hasn't faced tough opponents. Yi Jing Liang, never been knocked out. I guess not quite knocked out, but JDM, I think his toughness will allow him to continue the fight, and I won't stand there and let him punch me in the face. If he's working me over a little bit, I gotta slip one and I'll go for a takedown. I think JDM has the ability to mix things up here, but Carlos Prates is just he's just on top. He kind of has a little, when Alex was on his way up, just nothing can beat him. Even if he loses, dude, nothing can stop him. He's got the trajectory that just like you can't deny that Carlos Prates just has the energy that's just shooting him right to the top. And I think this fight is gonna be a Carlos Prates victory.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thought process is correct in the sense that like Carlos Prates has answers. He
Mm.
has answers for a lot of what comes at him. I mean, like he's a well-rounded fighter in a crafty way that allows for really positional awareness that's very unique to him because of the style that he has. I mean, he's like really what happens when you modify Muay Thai to mixed martial arts effectively and then you pair it with all of the other trappings of a mixed martial artist. Like all of those elements coalesce into a fighter that is prepared for almost anything that you could throw at him. And I don't think that Jack Della is that multidimensional. To be perfectly honest, and granted, people say that I'm a hater. I am not a hater of the guy. I just recognize limitations in Jack Della's game that I have seen now consistently. He's a guy who is very tough. He will certainly make this go for a long time. I don't even know if Carlos is going to be able to finish him, but I do know that this is going to be something where if Carlos is going to have that level of adversity where he has to be as on his toes for 5 rounds, he can do that. And he can go through and make this the fight that he wants it to be. Jack Della does not present the same level of well-roundedness that Ian Gary brought to their fight. He is going to be trying to land heavy shots. He's going to use some good footwork as far as keeping the boxing moving and in positionally changing to where he wants it to be. But Carlos Prates can also do all of those things plus the things that he does on top of it. So I think that Carlos Prates just brings a tool bag that is more than what Jack Della is working with.
I'm excited to see how this one pans out. This is gonna be a good main event for sure.
I'm really excited about this myself actually. And look, if Jack Della can somehow figure out the way to make this work, then maybe I will start changing my tune about him. But until I see it, I'm going to need to see it to believe it.
All right, I hear you.
All right, so both going with Carlos Prates then?
That is exactly what we're gonna do.
That is correct. All right. Well, next up, I already know what's coming here. So this is Benil Dariush, and he is going up against Quillen Salkilled. Chase, your thoughts.
If you guys have been keeping up with the show for the amount of time that we've been watching Quillen, you'll remember that I have, obviously the Anshul Jabli 13-second knockout, whatever you want to say. When it came to the Nasrat Hakparas fight, what's key to note is that the fight was not going his way. He was not looking the best. He shot takedowns. Nasrat stuffed him. He was on the feet. He wasn't, making anything work. Nasrat was looking good, defensively sound. But then he's able to just pull something out. Pulls it out, finishes the fight, bing, bang, boom. So with that being said, I would love to believe that the match is going to look quite close in the first opening minutes or so. Dariush might get a takedown. Quillen might be on his back. But the thing is great fighters and people who have this ability to just make shit happen. It's not the X factor, really, is what you can call it. Quillen may not be able to win every moment of every fight, but the moment that he is winning, it wins him the fight. And I think he is a very skilled guy. He's not necessarily the fastest. He's not the biggest. He's not the strongest, but he does he does have something, and he finishes fights whether you want to see it or not. The way that he finishes them is something to behold. He's 2 for 2 on spectacle finishes kind of deal. This is the matchup that people have been saying he needs to have. Dariush, obviously, we've been waiting for him to be on his way out. He just suffered a 12-second knockout to Benoit Saint Denis. Got to take Quillen here.
Yeah, I mean, really, you hit the major points here, and I have never been one of these people. I'm surprised I did not hear about Beneil Dariush and his gray hair, but I have never been one of those people that like looked at Beneil Dariush as like this old man that just needs to be put out to pasture. Again, he's only 36 years old, but he is wearing 36 as far as his fighting goes nowadays. That's really more of what I'm saying. He had been a dude who had had a couple of really good victories that got him into closer to the equation. I mean, a little bit higher up in the rankings, but then he has this inactive streak. A couple of things happened where he had to be pulled out of the fight with on the Makachev card that was supposed to be with Arman Sarukian, etc. All of those things end up kind of pushing him down the road a little bit, kind of can kicking Dariush. Then we see him come back, and what happens to him. It's an unfortunate thing, but I think that all of that kind of signals a guy who, whether or not it's the look or the fighting ability, one way or another, it's coming to the end of the line. I think that Dariush is just becoming he is coming to the end of his effectiveness is really where I've gotten with him. And Quillen Salkild is on the exact opposite trajectory. I mean, this is again line go up, line go down situation. This is the exact right time for Quillen Salkild to be in this position. This is the fight that he needs to win to make sure, like, to make people really like fully know that, because all of what he's done up until this point is definitely impressive, but you can pick out those things. Oh, Nasrat Haqparast, he's not that great. I mean, we know that he's better than that, but people will say that, yeah, you can do that against Nasrat Haqparast, but show me that against this guy. Dariush is like, a lot of people don't even consider him to be that, but you have to do that to get to the next guy. So this is the time that Quillen Salkild really can shine. He's doing it in front of the home crowd. He's got the juice right now. The sauce is all on his side. I mean, I think, I'm not one to pick off of aura ever, but if there is a guy who does have aura currently, it is certainly him. For all of those reasons, I too will be taking Quillen Salkild.
Gotcha. Yep, no doubt.
All right. I mean, anything not tracked there?
No, you're good. I love it. I'm listening.
All right. Good deal. All right, next up then, my dude Tim Elliott is going up against Steve Erceg. When I tell you that I love this matchup, man, this warms my heart, because Tim Elliott is a dude who everybody wants to count out, and I guarantee you that if he comes into this fight with that big old mountain beard, everybody's going to be like, "Look at this fucking bum! Oh my god, this is some guy who, he beat some Japanese dude. What am I supposed to take away from that? Especially we're talking the Australians in the crowd. Oh, this guy is nothing. This Tim Elliott guy, and then Mr. Tim Elliott. It's going to come out and pull off some wonky shit that everyone's going to be like, man, I didn't see that coming, because who could have seen that coming? Well, who didn't see that coming? Steve fucking Erceg didn't see that coming. Anyway, might have tipped my hand, but Chase, your thoughts.
I think I would like to believe that Tim Elliott's going to win this fight as well. But what I will say, and this is where it's going to get interesting, this is flyweights. There's a very small differential in the skill. Everybody has the skills. It's just how they utilize them. A lot of small moments will steal them. Look at Royval and Tyra. It's that one takedown in the end that gave Royval the fifth round. There's a lot of, Steve Erceg and Pantoja, split decision. These are things that you just have to keep in mind when it comes to these guys. And Steve Erceg is the potential that we get a split decision in Australia, and we see Steve Erceg walk away with a W. I think I hate to say it, because I don't think he's going to put on the performance that I believe is winning, but I think he will go ahead and walk away with a decision win from the judges, and I think it will even be a split decision win.
Yeah, and that we talked about this on weeks past, where it's like, regardless of what actually happens in the fight, we have to look at it from the perspective of what's going to happen with the actual outcome. And I think that, Chase, you do such a good job of thinking about it in those terms, because this is that kind of fight written all over it, especially with what I was saying about Tim Elliott, for sure. Now, that being said, one thing that I will note here, and I could be completely off base, but in Steve Erceg's last fight, he seemed like the defeatedness was kind of getting to him a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. This is a guy who got shot. We've talked about Steve Erceg and his trajectory. He is a unique case in this sport with how his history coming into the organization, getting shot up very quickly, all of those things. Like it was almost too much too soon for Steve Erceg by no fault of his own. I think that where he has gotten to now, especially after the losses have started to creep up, after we have sort of found that he is more of a normal guy than what the ranking would lead you to believe after the loss to Pantoja, like I think that this whole paradigm might be getting to him a little bit. Tim Elliott, on the other hand, is just a worker, dude. I mean, like he is a funky style guy who's going to go in there and do that regardless of where he is and who he is fighting. For those reasons, and even knowing that what you just outlined could very well, very, very, very well be exactly what is going to happen, I'm still going to go with Tim Elliott because I think that this could be the performance that ends up being the thing that is like, okay, now people maybe realize Tim Elliott is that dude a little bit more than all of his other previous stuff might have led you to believe. And I know 22 and 13 and 1. That is not a record that screams like, oh, this should be the next guy. I'm not even saying he's going to be the next guy. I'm saying that Steve Erceg, where he is now, versus Tim Elliott, where he has always sort of revolved at. I think that's where my thought is.
100%. I like it. Yeah.
All right. So you're going Erceg and I'm going Elliott.
I'm going Erceg, but I think Tim Elliott is going to win the matchup, in my opinion, by my estimate.
Well, then, keep that all in perspective when, we are on our next episode here. We'll see what happens with the judging and everything. Just remember this conversation. And also, if you're out there, that we're both streaming to our individual channels. So make sure you like the channel who you think has the better takes on these.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, next up, the meal deal. Shamil Gaziv's fighting Brando Paricic. Brother, what do you think about this right here?
Brando is definitely a prospect to look out for, and I'm very excited to see him. And I do think he is somebody that is on my watch this list for sure. Like, I got to keep up with this guy. But I want to go with Shamil on this one. I want to say Shamil, while he is a blobbering buffoon and he's going to be out there doing his thing, he does have grappling. He does have a ability to push you up against the cage, and he'll knee you, and he might be able to shoot a takedown. I don't think he has the tools to win on the feet, so I'm gonna hope that he does something clinch worthy, grappling. But I think at the end of the day, it gets to round 2, and I think that's when Shamil is able to finish this fight.
Well, so okay, Brando Paricic fought Louis Sutherland in his last fight. That was a performance, if you recall, that Brando was head full of steam, came out very aggressive very early. That was something that I liked about him. And Louis Sutherland did try to initiate the grappling in that fight. Now, what I would say is based on those things, if, and this is a big if because we have seen this time and time again where a guy fights one way and then another thing happens in his next fight and it completely throws off the thought process. But one a good example of that is Tom's buddy, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head.
Della.
Thank you. Very exactly. Ante Della. So Brando Paricic, I'm going to go off of what I have seen out of him. If Shamil is thinking that he is going to be able to walk into this fight and immediately shoot, and that's going to be the thing that takes it to later rounds, I think that Brando's going to have a really easy time with this fight. I think that because if he's going to try to level change on him early, if that's what he thinks is going to be the things that's like, okay, I'll stall him for a little while. I'll take him down, maybe try to lay on top of him, gas him out a little bit, wear him down. I think that Brando's onto that off rip. I think that he has a game plan that is effective against that. If Shamil's going to try to strike with him, he's definitely going to have problems there. So again, going off of what I've already seen out of Brando with a guy who basically had that game plan, he had to go through a couple of little minor grappling exchange or minor wrestling exchanges to get himself into the knockout position against Louis Sutherland. Sutherland, not a great fighter, so Shamil should have better success there. What I'm saying is I think Brando can weather the grappling storm, weather the wrestling storm most definitely. If it gets into a grappling situation, we'll have to see how he does. But wrestling, 100%, I think he's able to hold his own. And if he is as aggressive as he was in his last fight, Shamil's going to have problems.
I think the real issue comes for me is that we've seen one performance from Brando. I'm not going to sit here. And I know, Lachlan, I see you. He's the next heavyweight champion. Fine, fair. I've seen one performance from him. I will not jump the gun too soon. If Brando looks like shit this next fight, there's why I didn't give him the keys right there. But if he looks like a god one more time, listen, this is a guy that Waldo Cortez Acosta knocked out. That's a guy who doesn't knock out many people. I mean, he knocked out Della, give him that. But Shamil, he knocked him square out on his ass, flatlined. Brando, if you can't do what Waldo Cortez Acosta can do, we're starting to question where your ranks lie here. And let me be clear, 6'4" versus 6'5" here. I don't remember Brando in his last fight and thinking, God, that dude's massive. But when I see Shamil, I say, that dude's fucking massive. So I'm just saying, we'll see how this actually works out.
Massive with emphasis on the mass. Yeah, no, look, I mean, if Shamil can go in there and get his way for the entire fight, that changes my tune too. I've always liked the Shamil memes. I'm a fan of Shamil for against John Jones and all of that kind of stuff. I'm going off of just raw data based on what I saw out of Brando. He's a dude, if you want to get into the deeper stuff, which obviously is very minor here, but I will at least say he's a guy that left a family behind in Serbia or whatever country he comes from to train in Australia because he wants to make this dream a reality. He's got a lot on the line. In that regard, I think he takes the sport pretty seriously. I want to believe that he comes out and replicates what he did against Sutherland and just goes for it early. If he can do that, I think he has the success.
That's awesome. I love it. I introduce this next banger of fight. I got to run to the restroom so we can finish this out really strong. So I'll just
All
be
right.
right back.
You do your thing. And chat, you guys know the drill. Every time that this happens here, I'm going to need to see L's in the chat for Chase Parton. I have to go to the bathroom too. Every episode, immediately after we cut to the end screen, I run off to the bathroom because I got to go. I'm holding it for the entire episode. Only Chase Parton actually takes the break mid episode. So spam those L's for me if you got them. But the next fight up that we are going to be talking about is, of course, Tai Tuivasa versus the aforementioned Louis Sutherland. I mean, if you have not seen a fight that is more definitively saying to you, we need one person to get a win so badly, I don't know if I can present a better version of that. Tai Tuivasa is on a massive losing streak. It is amazing to me that he has not been cut from this promotion already. I don't think that I have ever seen a fighter skate by on his outside of the ring personality and persona more than Tai Tuivasa at this point. And they are trying to set him up for a win so meticulously here when they're setting him up against Louis Sutherland, who is 10-5 at this point and has not won inside of the UFC. Am I right about that? I'm fairly certain that I am. He has come into the organization. Yeah, he has come into the organization with, I guess he was, what was it, 10-3, excuse me, 10-3. And he has taken 2 losses inside of the organization at this point. So they really have the impression that this guy, Louis Sutherland, is not a great fighter. They are trying to sacrifice him to Tai Tuivasa. And the question is, can Tai Tuivasa actually live up to the person to be the sacrifice maker?
I think, one, thank you for killing that dead air. Love it. But also, this fight is by far one of the worst to actually put stock into because either one that you pick, the one that loses, I mean, and to be fair, it could be either of them. You're going to look so dumb because it's going to be the dumbest way that these dudes lose. Double knockout, hopefully, is valid here, but it is. God, this is such an unfortunate matchup that we have to endure. I want to go ahead and take Louis for the only reason that Ty has not shown that he can win a fight in the last however many. Um, Even with against Taliesin, Taliesin looked like shit, and he did nothing. Excuse me, and then he did nothing with it. Louis Sutherland also is going to look like shit, but I think. Which one are you taking? I'll just take the opposite.
I mean, the craziest thing to me about this is that because Louis Sutherland has not proven to me that he is of the UFC caliber, I kind of have to go with Ty because he has gotten a win inside the organization before, but that feels like eons ago at this point. Now, what I said while you were gone, Chase, is that this is about as clear of a setup fight as they could ever make. I mean, this is a guy on a 2-fight losing streak who has not won inside the UFC, going up against a guy who they want to win so badly to keep him around just because he is a fan favorite. So I got to believe that the matchmaking lends itself to them getting their way with that. I'm hoping, in my thought process at least, that that is correct. If Ty loses this fight, I there is nothing. I mean, there's already nothing for him. I mean, I think that we now have come to that conclusion regardless. This is a dude who drinks beer out of a shoe. He's fun to be around when he's outside of the cage. Yes, we get these things. Inside of the cage, you have to win your fights. He does not do that. End of story. I think that they are trying so hard to make this happen. It could backfire on them, but if it's going to backfire on them, then it has to be here, or it's then. I mean, there's just what could they do besides this? There's nothing else. So I think that this is like their version of a make or break. You know what I mean? Like if we because we want this guy, we know that he's a fan favorite. He walks out the Barbie girl. People love him. We want it so bad. So I gotta believe that there's something left, some kernel of a win left in him. And he also has to know. I mean, Tai Tuivasa at this point has to know that this is the end of the line. I mean, there's no way. There's no way they keep him after this if he loses. But I did say that about the last fight.
But also with that notice, if Tai Tuivasa knows this is the last one that he's got to win, why why wouldn't he just go out with it like this is the last one, this is the last hoorah, foot out the door kind of deal. I mean, win or lose, I'm gonna go out here
Oh no, because
and ride off in the sunset.
they'll keep him if he wins.
Yeah, true.
That's what
I
I'm
guess.
saying. Yeah, so this is make or break for you staying in the organization if you actually want that. Which who knows? I
That's
mean,
that's my thing is like who knows if Ty even wants that still. He could
right.
be fulfilling the end of his contract and retire, Like
It's yeah, I mean, he's got his successful marijuana business apparently. So I mean, he's doing other things at this point. He actually is a person who, when Dana White says this is not a job, it's an opportunity, he actually took advantage of that. So shout out to him. I'm not a hater of Tai Tuivasa in the slightest. I agree with all of those things, the perception of him. I think he's a fun guy. Can he win a fight? That's going to be the big question here. They're trying so hard to make it happen. For that reason, I'm giving you one last shot to Tai Tuivasa. This is your last shot. And if this does not work out, brother, good luck in your future endeavors, because I don't even know if I'm talking about his fights after this if he loses this fight.
facts. And so I'm gonna take Louis, and this is the pick that I originally wanted to take, even though I hate picking either one of these because they're gonna make me look dumb. But either way, I'll take Louis Sutherland on this one.
Okay. All right. May the may the best man win is what I wanted to say. Who knows if that's
Mm,
actually going to be the case.
yeah, true.
All right. Well, let's move on to the prelims here. Cam Rouston is back. I know people like Cam Rouston, right? The kangaroo. Is that am I correct on that? What was his? The giraffe? He had some funny animal name, if I'm not mistaken.
Battle giraffe.
Battle Giraffe. Thank you very much. There you go. Cam the Battle Giraffe. He's fighting Robert Brychik. Uh, okay. What are your thoughts, Jace?
Uh, he does have a TKO win over Brad Tavares, though. Interesting. Why
Yes,
do I not remember this?
yeah,
Hmm.
that was that was late last year. Yeah, I remember that. Lost to Ehor. And then yeah, guy
Ihor Potieria?
yeah, lost
Yeah.
unanimously to Ehor Potieria.
Yep. Cam Ralston it is, brother.
Easy setup, you're thinking?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, it's a Polish guy though. Like Cam Ralston has been finishing a lot of the people that he's walked into in his, he lost in Contender Series, of course, and then he comes back in here and he's making a big name for himself, getting these finishes. They obviously know that this Polish guy is probably pretty tough. They want to give not an immediate knockout. Yeah, he's only been finished once on the feet, once by submission. I think they're expecting a fight to be brought to Cam Ralston, and they want to see him win a decision with somebody who's not going to stop walking forward.
Yeah, I like the thought process on this. Obviously, we're in Australia. You want to get, this is a featured prelim here. This is setting up for, a fireworks display for Cam Ralston is basically what I'm getting out of this. I mean, a guy who, you know, again, we talk about guys coming in from other organizations. If you think that having a lot of wins in Octagon colors my opinion in any way, shape, or form, you are mistaken. Cam Ralston has shown, he actually proved me wrong. I was kind of skeptical of the guy. I mean, he came out and did his thing in his last fight. I wouldn't say that he necessarily made a full-on believer out of me, but when his opponent is this guy, yeah, I'm also going to take Cam Ralston.
100%. I love it.
All right. Oh, we were just talking about Tuivasa and mini Tuivasas over here. The Tafas. Junior Tafa is the one that's in this fight, and he is fighting Kevin Christian. Oh Jesus Christ! This is yet another one where it looks like they are really trying to set up Tafa to get a win. I mean, this is a Tafa who is 6-5 right now, going up against Kevin Christian, the grappling specialist supposedly who got submitted brutally by Billy Elicana. So, what do you make of this?
That was definitely going to be my thing. I want to take Kevin Christian because I don't want to take a Tafa for sure. But the thing that is worrisome about Kevin Christian, if you remember that submission, of course, very brutal. Chris Tione completely missing the tap, and I really don't know if that's going to affect this guy or not. Is he going to come out with the killer mentality like, yo, this dude almost died in there? Like, again, go back to the submission. He's tapping away. He thinks he's going to get let go. No, brother, you're going to get smothered.
You think he's been traumatized? He's got PTSD from that instance.
I truly do believe, like, what if he just never initiates grappling again? He's like, bro, I'm not gonna get fucking choked out again. I'll just stand and bang from here on out. We don't know what the case is gonna be, but I truly believe, like, going through something like that, the ref is supposed to save you, and in your mind, the last thing you remember is tapping, and the ref did not save you. Like, I just don't know. Obviously, it's not going to be the same situation here, but I want to go ahead and believe that Kevin Christian I mean, 31 years old. He's still got a bright future at light heavyweight, guys. I mean, Tafa, though, we know that there's no future here.
I mean, this is the problem with predicting Tafa fights is very simple. Can Kevin Christian get him to the ground? Can he get him to the ground? That's all you have to ask. If the answer is yes, he will win the fight. If the answer is no, he will not win the fight. I don't know the answer. That's the problem. What we saw was Billy Elicana, who, I would class him as good, not great still. I mean, maybe there's more to him, and I have not seen that yet, or I'm, still in the process of seeing that, I guess is what I'll say. I don't dislike the guy, but, I mean, I would not, what I've seen so far, I would not put him in the elite category or soon to be elite. What we saw is this high level grappling guy get choked out. So beaten at his own game, basically. Can he take down Junior Tafa? This is the big question. I don't know the answer to it, so I have a very hard time making a choice on this.
So you got to do it, man.
I know. Oh, it kills me right now.
You're going to take Ty and Junior Tafa.
I know, dude.
Think about this.
I know. This is a crazy thing to me. This is a crazy thing. I got to believe that there are not going to be all of the Australians just getting their way on this card, but this seems like such a layup, and I was never super high.
Tim Elliott. You took Tim Elliott and
True.
Prates.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, that's a good point, I guess. Yeah, I did take some of the other ones. All right. Well, fair enough. Either way, though, oh man, can Kevin Christian do it? This is such a crazy thing to try to figure out.
Let me tell you this also, and this is just to help you pick Junior Tafa. Junior Tafa is, again, this is a ex-Glory heavyweight champion. He's now back down to light heavyweight. He does have the ability to stop fights with one punch. Kevin Christian is a tall man who probably has the tall man defense where he does this.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you too. Do you remember if Elicana set up the choke with a strike? Did he knock him down?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Okay.
He like broke his fucking eye, bro.
Okay. Then you know what? I will take Tafa. I'm gonna say, because you want to know why, I'll tell it to you like this. Kevin Christian came in off of the Contender Series, lost his first fight thereafter. So basically, this is still a Contender Series guy to me. That being said, Junior Tafa has more experience in the organization. We saw him get knocked down into a submission. He can knock him down too. He can knock him down and put him out.
The thing about it, though, and if you go back to the fight with Billy Elicana, it took a while for Billy Elicana to set that strike up. They were just standing in front of each other doing nothing for about 2 rounds.
That plays to Tafa then.
And no, he can do that, but after it gets out of round one, he has no reason to believe that there's anything else going to happen here. I think Kevin Christian will get this out of round one, and I think he will have the striking advantage, but there will always be the threat that, oh, Tafa, even though he's fucking hands down, hands on his side, he's just going to throw that one Hail Mary, and that's just how it is for some of these fighters, where Kevin Christian will just be the type of guy to just lean his head back and just get clipped by the guy who can only throw the same punch that can land when you do that. I don't hate the pick on Tafa, but
oh, I do.
I mean,
I can't stand it. I hate this fight, to be perfectly honest. I don't like this fight in the slightest. Again, it's too much of a what if. The fact that he all it takes is keeping these guys down. This also goes for Tai Tuivasa. If Louis Sutherland can get him down, fight's over. I mean,
True.
that's all that it comes down to. So, I mean, I think that I'm setting myself up for a major, major downfall here. But I'm gonna stick with it. I'm already
Taking
locked in.
Tafa.
I'm taking Tafa.
All right.
This is gonna be another very heartbreaking card for me. I can feel it already. But all right, either way, we're locked in. We're moving on. Jacob Malkoon, the Iron Hip himself, is going up against Gerald Mearshart. I mean, they really are just trying to like throw the most unlikely people to get wins up against each other at this point, is what it seems like
It,
on
fun
this card specifically.
Funny enough, I actually don't think this is. Listen, Jacob Malkoon, let me just state the facts. He's got very fast hands, good boxer, good takedown defense. I'll give him that. Gerald Mearshart, been around, been here or not. Will he be knocked out or will he not? Is really the question. His chin is very questionable, but if he doesn't get knocked out, it's going to be a long fight for Malkoon because Jeremy Mearshart he's sticky. He's a very hard guy to get off you once he gets going and he's able to weather the first storm kind of deal. The thing that is interesting, and I don't know if this is going to change your opinion or not. This is going to change a lot of people's opinion on betting on this fight. Did you know that Jacob Malkoon is a minus 1,200 favorite here?
Jeez Louise, I did not know that. But I mean, really, honestly, to me, it tracks. And I'll tell you why. What you just described about Gerald Mearshart, I I am the president of the Gerald Mearshart fan club, or was. And the problem is that what you described from him is in the past. We've not seen that guy in quite some time. His last performance was abysmally bad. And I mean, all of those things that you just described out of him, his stickiness, his tenacity, all those things, the will to continue the grappling even after the point of exhaustion, those kinds of elements just don't seem to be there anymore. It's honestly surprising that they're still keeping him around. 38 is not 40, but it's still old enough to be past any semblance of who you once were. And we're seeing the performances that inform that at this point. So for that reason, I mean, Jacob Malkoon being that big of a favorite, I don't like that you're looking at the odds, by the way. But
I'm not.
oh,
No, I know that one from that was just in the Discord a little bit ago. That
okay.
was posted on Twitter like, "Yo, you got to be fucking kidding me. Minus 1,200 for this dude." Like,
Again, sad that I think that it tracks though. I mean, and then dude, Malkoon in his last fight beat Torres Finney after Torres Finney injured himself. Brother, this is not a guy that deserves a minus 1,200 price tag ever. But that being said, if this was minus 275, I would still be in the same camp.
people forget, you guys want to talk about Jiro Mearshart's chin, whatever. Back in August 24 of 24, this guy has a submission win over Edmund Shabazian, and that's his most recent win out of the last five. And now, granted, that is a long time ago, but Jacob Malkoon is not the striker, the first round finisher that Edmund Shabazian is, and Gerald Mearshart was able to figure his way out and get a submission there. Jacob Malkoon, at best, is pillow hands with a lot of volume, but I'm gonna take Gerald Mearshart here, dude. I'm not going to play around. Gerald Mearshart is gonna get this win here.
All right. I look, I want to believe in the resurgence of Gerald Mearshart. I've seen it from Jeremy in the chat saying he's a good guy. I believe that, and I am a fan of him in past. But as you said, when was that win, Chase? What year was that?
24.
Exactly. I have not seen it in quite some time. And, bro, when you're at this stage of his career, that's also the problem here. We've seen plenty of fighters who go on losing streaks and then have a resurgence. That's not what we're talking about here. I cannot wrap my head around the idea that Gerald Mearshart was on a skid. You know what I'm saying? So.
I mean, it's not a skid necessarily. I mean, he's still on the decline. I just don't think Jacob Malkoon is going to put Gerald Mearshart out. That's the
I
only
mean,
thing.
fair enough. I think it's just going to be a long, drawn out, kind of sloppy fight where Gerald Mearshart gets maybe some early success and then just trails off throughout the course of this thing. He trailed off in round one in his last fight. Malkoon can make it through round one at the very least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear you.
That's where I'm at.
I agree.
All right, so you're sticking with it though.
I'm sticking with Gerald Mearshart for sure.
All right, I love
GM3
it
for the win.
Yeah, you know what? And I hope this is one that I would be very okay with being wrong about. Certainly much more okay than the last two fights we talked about.
Yes.
All right. Colby Thickness is going up against your boy Vince Morales. Man, Vince Morales still kicking, dude. I thought that they'd cut him. Did they bring him back?
They did not cut him. They just quietly probably investigated him after he said that he was approached to throw fights for $75,000. So
70K Morales.
Yeah, so that was his thing. He hasn't fought in a while, which is interesting because it clearly did have an effect on his money because he came back to the UFC, fought like 3 times very quickly back to back to back, and then that whole shit came out, he made his comment, and he's been shelved ever since.
Right.
So, we are finally back. Vince Morales gets an opposition that is if you guys really want the truth, this is somebody who's not even on the level of what Vince Morales' former opponents have been on. And Vince Morales has made it competitive to the point where he has almost finished these fights with threatening submissions. And that's what I've always liked about Vince Morales is when it comes to the submission threats. He is a threatening sub artist. And Colby Thickness is a guy who's going to put his head and arms and probably legs in a lot of different submissions. He won't necessarily lose to them, but I'm going to say Vince Morales is going to win this fight. I want to say in this fight specifically, this is my big brain take. The submission threats that we've always seen from Vince Morales, Colby Thickness is going to engage in the wrestling. That's fine. Vince Morales, instead of shooting for his favorite subs that he always likes to do, I think he's going to get real nasty with his elbows off his back here. And I think Vince Morales will bust open Colby Thickness, and we're going to get some color. And Vince Morales will win off his back for majority of the 2 rounds. I think the first round will be on the feet a little bit.
All right. I mean, look, I'm agreeing with a lot of what you're saying here. I don't know about the method exactly, but I mean, a lot of the thought on Morales tracks. Colby Thickness, they're going to try to trick you guys so hard with, oh, this is Volk's protege. He trains with the team. He's always next to the champ, et cetera, et cetera. I've been watching the Chernobyl miniseries on HBO. I've been talking about this on the watch alongs. MMA is not like radiation, it doesn't like transmit to people by bodily contact or anything like that, much to, the contrary of what Bilal Epstein would have you believe. That's not how it works, that transfer of ability. So Colby Thickness has not shown us anything to lead us to believe that any of what Volk brings to him is sticking. I've really been very underwhelmed with this guy on every performance that I've seen from him. And really I've clocked Colby Thickness because he came in on short notice for his debut, and we were like, oh, short notice debut, guy who's a younger guy, whatever, maybe chalk it up to that. Then we saw him in his next fight, equally unimpressive. Vince Morales is a dude who has much more experience. He's a lot more crafty. He's got a lot more tricks in the bag. I think that Vince Morales finds the victory here.
All right, I love it. My guy Vince, man, he's a beast, man. I hope this is the type of guy. I said this about Zach Palga. This is the type of guy that I want to know that you have fans out there for what you do in the cage, and that's all that there is to it. Your martial arts life has amounted to somebody recognizing that you are a great martial artist when it comes to what you do inside the octagon.
Fair enough. As long as you don't take the 70K, definitely don't take the money.
Just don't talk about it next time, Dick. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, that,
Jeez.
that that too. Quietly just strike when you could be wrestling.
Jesus, I got the drugs over here, officer. Like, what?
Yeah. Well, all right. So we'll see if it ends up tracking. But yep, I'm also going to be taking Vince Morales on this. Show me something, Colby Thickness. That's
Yeah,
what it comes down to. Show me something.
hell yeah.
All right, Ben Johnson. That's
Johnston.
Johnston. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, Ben Johnston. I was going to say Ben Johnson is every man ever. That's just about as NPC as it gets. Also does not have a picture on here. Ben Johnston is fighting Wes Schultz. Why is Wes Schultz in the UFC right now? Chase, did he not lose on the Contender Series once, and then he got the greatest Suliev stretch of all time, and now he's here?
Correct. Yes, he is here now. He's going up against a guy who's never been in the organization. He's never been on Contender Series. He has 6 pro bouts, and he's coming from Eternal MMA.
Yes.
Now, to be fair, he is a grappling guy. He's got 4 submissions to his name out of the 5 wins that he has. Oh yeah, Wes Schultz lost to Daniel Pinas. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Knew that was
That I mean
coming.
that age as well. Pinas is legitimately a power striker who did great in his debut. So
But Wes Schultz, that was his debut. Yeah, it's I don't
that
I'm
was
not gonna put stock. Yes, no, yeah, the
that was actually
debut.
in the organization. The two of
Yeah,
them.
that was just a couple weeks ago. That
Ah.
was maybe 2 months ago. Hold on,
Oh, that was him. That was in that fight.
Daniel Pina is February
Damien.
28th.
Yeah, Damien Pinas.
Damian Pinas and Wes Schultz, February 28th. Yes.
Okay, and he got
So
brutally assassinated.
very quick turnaround for Wes Schultz. Ben Johnston being the grapple king of Australia in the middleweight division. Do I want to believe in it, or do I want to believe in the guy who I know has got a Suliev stretch? Now, the craziest part is, and this is where it gets tough, because while I think Wes Schultz is the smarter play here, I have been I've told you guys that I publicly think Wes Schultz is one of the worst fighters that I've seen personally.
That is true. I remember that.
But with that being said, I will take the chance on being completely burned by him for the opportunity that I'm right, and if I'm wrong, that's cool. I knew he wasn't that guy. Same thing with Zalal. If I'm right, I'm right. But if I'm wrong, I don't know. I'm taking Wes Schultz. Oh, it's a stupid choice too.
Yeah, I'll tell it to you like this. Wes Schultz gets knocked out by Pinas, as we've said. Pinas, showing that he's, I would say a prospect to keep an eye on. But that being said, this is nothing more than an additional contender series fight to me. So, with that being the case, flip the coin. I don't know enough about Johnston to make an informed opinion about that. I know enough about Schultz to know that a Suliev stretch is very impressive, but not something that can be replicated time and time again unless you really have the position for it. If Johnston is coming in with the grappling credential, as it sounds like he has, I got to believe that he's going to be better at having a defense for that. For that reason, again, being that it is a flip of the coin, contender series part 2 kind of thing, I will take the other. I'll go with Ben Johnston.
All right, I love it.
Yeah, let's do it. Doing it in front of the hometown. He's in his backyard. Get the early win. Start this card off right for the hometown crowd. Oh, even though there are other Australians on it, so keep the energy going. Perhaps. Next up is Jonathan Mikhailov versus Temba Garimbo. This could be another one that could keep the energy going. What are you thinking here?
This one is easy for me. I know you didn't believe in him at first, I believe is how that went. Jonathan Mikhailov is one of these guys that he's just got something to him, guys. And I think you're going to see it here as well. Timbo Garimbo is a very basic skill set, very easy fighter to bully around in that cage, I would say. Jonathan Mikhailov he's got size, he's got imposing physicalities to him. I think he'll just be able to just walk through Timbo Garimbo. Timbo Garimbo has nothing to offer back, unfortunately, is what I would say. And he's a scammer.
Well, I did an entire video about why people hate Temba Garimbo. So if you want to know more about his outside of the cage activities, go ahead and watch that. In this fight, yeah, I mean, Temba Garimbo has been underwhelming in the cage at best, I would say. I mean, he's had a couple of decent performances that have got eked out victories, but decent is about where he caps off at to me. Mikhailov, a dude who is, proved me wrong before, so I got to believe he can keep that streak going. And against Temba Garimbo, I think that this is a perfect setup for that. A guy who, if you are even slightly better than, you can have the performance that you want to have. The only thing I would say is that maybe Temba Garimbo gets his hands on him, maybe muscles him around a little bit, clinches him up, maybe neutralizes him to an extent. I think Mikhailov figures a way out of that, and eventually, if it's not in round 1, it's round 2, and if it's not round 2, it's round 3. I think he eventually gets the dub out of this.
You think he finishes him?
Yeah, I think so.
Nice. I like that call. I don't know. Timber Garimbo has a way to put himself in the dumbest positions. I mean, he's also a victim of the Luke Darce choke. How do you fucking fall for the dude's favorite fucking submission? I don't know. Jordan. Damn, I don't know. Who is Jordan Mikhailov? Does he have a brother or something? Anyway, Jonathan Mikhailov will get this dub, and I'm very excited to see him going forward.
Yeah, I want to believe it, because if he loses to Temba Garimbo, he's going to be right back in the doghouse as far as it comes to with me,
Yeah, I 100% agree with that one.
All right. Well, starting this card off, our dude Dom Mar Fan is back. The what was it?
Street Buddha.
The Street Buddha, exactly. Dom Mar Fan is back, and he is going up against Cody Steele. Now, I love this. This is a great first match right here, dude. I love this fight.
This is.
Yeah, it's a hard one to pick.
No.
Oh, what?
You think it's a hard one to pick?
I mean, off of
I don't
Cody
know
Steele?
I don't know if you know who Cody Steele is, then, brother. This dude is
A
amazing.
fucking beast. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
And Dom Marfan is just the guy who beat a Korean guy. Like,
Well, I mean, okay, I thought you were giving more credit to Don Marfan. Okay, that was where I was kind of going with
No,
it. Damn
no.
it,
Don Marfan has a cool name,
because I
but
was trying to
brother, it's
bluff you, you didn't fall for it.
no, Cody Steele is that guy. I mean, there's no reason
Yeah,
for me to think that Don Marfan, again, he jumped into the organization without having to go through one of the feeders, road to the UFC,
yeah,
excuse
he
me.
was a Road
He
to
was on
UFC
road to
guy.
the UFC, but he jumps into a pay-per-view card against sorry to say for saying Wook Kim, but he goes against the random Korean guy and he wins. Congratulations. I'm very happy for him. Unanimous decision, but Cody Steele is just going to take you down and choke you out. So
Yeah,
that's
I thought you were higher on Don Marfan. Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely what's going to happen here. Cody Steele is a fucking beast. I mean, this is the dude. He was the one against Rongju. Am I right?
yes, he did
Yeah,
lose against Rongshu,
he
sadly.
lost to
Damn.
Rongju, but if you recall, I mean that was a war of a fight, and now Cody Steele is a credentialed wrestler who went to war with a power striker who really took him into deep waters, and he had to essentially survive his way through that while swinging back. This dude Cody Steele will go toe to toe with you if you want to strike. He will meet you at your level. And he's got the wrestling to back all of that up. So if you want to play that game, you're definitely going to lose there. Cody Steele is like a next up kind of guy, and Don Marfan is not that. So I mean, I thought that you were going to glaze him a little bit harder, but yeah, no, Cody Steele is, yeah, I'd say that this is an easy pick right here.
Cody Steele, unfortunately, what I will say, not active enough. At 31, you got to get your career going, brother. You're 7-1 in the UFC. You scared the dude off a contender series. You get an opportunity against Rongshu. Unanimous decision loss. Cool. Take your time. Figure out what's going on. Your first loss of your pro career. I get it. It's 2026. Let's go ahead and get 2-3 fights in. Let's go ahead and get it done.
I like it. Well, start the trend off right here, right now. So we're both going Cody Steele.
Yes, absolutely.
Fair enough. And before we close out, I'm seeing in the chat, Rahiki found a replacement. Is this some debuting guy out of City Kickboxing? Is this correct?
I have not seen it come through. I just refreshed ESPN. I have not seen it posted there.
Yeah, you want to do a real quick tertiary search here just to see if we can find anything about that, just for
Yeah.
completionist sake.
Yes.
Stand by, folks. We'll just see if we can pull some information up about that. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm trying to find if there's any sorting by recency here. Let's see.
I am not seeing Marcel post it yet. It has not come through the rumor mill.
Yeah.
Benny P reported. Interesting.
Is this a reputable source? I'm not familiar.
This is crazy that they're making me sign
I know.
in.
Yeah. Well, I apologize for putting you on the spot there, Chase.
No, you're fine.
Lachlan, if you have the tweet, could you post it in the chat, please? Yeah. Hang with us, folks.
4-2 Ali Schmid from CKB will be stepping in to fight 8-0 Marwan Rahiki this week at Perth.
Okay. So what's the guy's name?
Ali Schmid.
Ali
fake,
Schmid. Yeah, I know, right?
He's 4-2.
Are we to believe that this is actually something we should be taking seriously? Ali Schmid.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah, Ali Schmid, the Hungarian stallion, 4-2. Yeah, so on a 3-fight win streak. He actually had a fight scheduled for May 30th. I guess he's getting pulled from that to fill in for this. Okay. I mean, I guess we should. What do you think, Chase? Should we be factoring this in?
We are going to factor it in. Just give me 1 second to adjust this table above. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm seeing it. Ali Schmid, 4-2 fighter. He's New Zealand fighter. Again, City Kickboxing, that tracks.
Okay, so who are you taking? That's the real question.
I mean, taking Rahiki. Come on, man, some rando.
Yeah, true. I would definitely be taking Rahiki on this one, and even if it somehow ends up being a fraud check, guys, it's just a short notice fill, and you can't really do too much about it.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, they're really just scrambling to try to get Rahiki on the card to, have him get a win in his hometown. I mean, this is a guy who's certainly on the come up. I'm a big fan of Rahiki. I think there are big things in his future, and a little squash match for him. It just boosts him a little bit. So sorry that Ollie Schmidt has to be the sacrificial lamb on this one, but yeah, that's exactly what this is.
100%, I agree.
All right. So then there you have it, people. Breaking news. We have a Rahiki fight, and we have now covered that as well. And as you know, if you would like to watch these fights alongside either myself or Chase Parton, you can do that on our individual watch alongs. You can find me at youtube.com/@YamaShow. And Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
They can always find me on youtube.com/@CP Smalls. And of course, we will be rocking this Saturday at 4 in the morning for UFC Perth.
That is a good point to recall. Yes, 4 a.m. start time Eastern Standard Time for UFC Perth. And also, if you are interested in watching One Samurai, that is Wednesday morning at 1:30 a.m. So I will be live for that. Chase might be live for that as well, perhaps. We will see. But either way, we're going to be doing a whole lot of fights in the middle of the night this week. So, just be aware that if you are in America, that is the start time for these things. Set your calendars and clocks accordingly. I will be at Yama Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. If you'd like to keep up with me on social media, would appreciate that. YamaShow.com for all of your merchandise needs, including last week's fights merchandise. Get yourself some of that. As always, people, we appreciate you. Thank you so much to everybody who's rocked with us for this episode. We will see you in the next one. And until then, you have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.